Chapter 3901. Hua Jin was innocent, but Tang Yu had splashed a basin of dirty water on him and made him take the blame. Tang Yu, on the other hand, was enjoying everything that didn't belong to him. Unforgivable. At one point, it aroused public anger among the netizens. Ban Tang Yu. Tang Yu, get out of the entertainment industry. Tang Yu doesn't deserve to be a star. In the future, I won't buy anything he endorses, I won't watch his TV series, and I won't pay attention to his shows. I'll boycott such a bad star. Tang Yu, go to hell. Even a fan posted a photo of many of Tang Yu's signed posters. All of them were torn up and thrown into a brazier to burn, declaring that they were no longer fans. However, Tang Yu's Weibo didn't disappear. Instead, he gained millions of fans because of his attention. However, millions of fans came to trample on him. On the top Weibo post, under the "Justice is in the People's Hearts" post, the comments section had climbed to hundreds of thousands. The most popular comment was an insult from a netizen. Justice my ass. Smile, justice was eaten by a dog, and you're the dog. I logged on to Weibo to see if Tang Yu quit the entertainment industry today. Don't make a fool of yourself. I was blind to not believe in my own idol and mistakenly believed in a dog like you. You look like a decent person. Should I scold you now or go through the procedure? Is there a like for scolding Tang Yu? Weibo had fallen into a trap. The netizens' criticism of Tang Yu had reached an unprecedented level. During this time, Tang Yu was almost invisible and didn't dare to make any movements. Hua Jin knew that Tang Yu was in his room and didn't dare to take a step out. His 3 meals a day were sent to him by his assistant. Outside the hotel, they were surrounded by reporters. After this incident, everyone wanted to be the first to take pictures of Tang Yu's movements. Although Tang Yu was an unknown 18th-tier artist, he wasn't famous yet. But everyone was optimistic. If there was no accident, Hua Jin, as the protagonist of the TV series, would always be among the top. It wasn't a wishful thinking for Tang Yu to become popular overnight with this drama. Most importantly, Tang Yu actually used Hua Jin to get rid of the responsibility. This was undoubtedly setting fire to Hua Jin. As a result, Tang Yu's incident suddenly became a hot topic. The attention was there, but everyone asserted that Tang Yu's acting career had come to a premature end. Tang Yu now regretted his actions. If he hadn't pushed that girl into despair back then, if he hadn't discussed with her what to do next, even if it was an abortion, it might not have been so lethal if it had been exposed. Tang Yu wanted to be famous so badly that he wouldn't allow any negative news to exist. He wanted to be an artist, but he didn't have the self-control and restraint of an artist. He wanted to be famous, but he didn't follow the rules of the entertainment industry at all. Therefore, Tang Yu's fate was completely sealed. Tang Yu hid in his room and didn't dare to go out. And because of him, Hua Jin could only stay in the hotel, and Liang Yin couldn't go out either. As soon as they went out, there was a sea of media reporters. Dozens of them, big and small, densely surrounded the hotel entrance. As soon as they went out, they were heavily surrounded. It was too scary. Liang Yin had never seen such a scene before. It was simply deadly. Chapter 3902. Hence, Hua Jin ordered takeout for all 3 meals a day and brought them home. That was the result. They also had to be wary of the paparazzi who pretended to be delivery men. Some of the reporters even bribed the delivery man to put the questions they wanted to interview into the package in the form of a jump. Some reporters pretended to be delivery men and waited until the door opened to squeeze in for an interview. Some paparazzi were even scarier as they would secretly stuff a listening device into a pen. Fortunately, Hua Jin was attentive enough to notice the pen that had appeared out of nowhere. He took it apart and discovered that it was actually a recording device. Liang Yin was completely frightened. She felt like there were countless pairs of eyes staring at her. She was always on tenterhooks. She didn't expect that being a celebrity was such a painful thing. In addition to rushing for the schedule, she often couldn't rest well. On the surface, she looked bright and beautiful. But at such a critical moment, she had to fight against the paparazzi all the time. This was simply like the rhythm of a spy movie. These paparazzi must be excellent spies and secret agents if they were placed in the war-torn era decades ago. Hua Jin was already used to it. This kind of thing was common in the entertainment industry. He had long been used to it. Liang Yin couldn't sleep well these days. The crew also suspended the filming. The director's team and the executives were discussing the issue of Tang Yu's departure. On the internet, many netizens even threatened to boycott Tang Yu. If Tang Yu's role wasn't deleted or replaced, they would resolutely not watch it. Some people even held a vote in favor of Tang Yu's withdrawal from the cast. 90% of the netizens said that even if it was a TV series starring Hua Jin, as long as Tang Yu was still in it, even if it was just a scene, they would resolutely boycott it. The director's team and the investors suddenly panicked. What did this mean? This would be a big hit to the ratings. After this incident, even if they braced themselves and filmed the TV series, they didn't know if the TV stations and websites would buy it. Advertisers would probably shrink back as well. Generally speaking, the profit of a TV series mainly depended on the buyout price during the first broadcast and advertising placement. The cost of advertising placement depended on the cast and ratings. Generally speaking, a TV series starring an A-list actor was often packed together with advertising placement to the website. Profits, however, depended on it. If a single piece of rat poop spoiled a pot of porridge, then the gains would not make up for the losses. The film crew had to weigh the pros and cons. But here came a thorny problem. Tang Yu's backer, the executive director of Shanghai Entertainment Media, was also one of the investors of the show. If Tang Yu was replaced, it wasn't too late to reshoot. However, he was afraid that he would offend Shanghai. Withdrawing his investment was a small matter, but he still had to face the problem of breaching the contract. Tang Yu's personal image problem affected the crew's filming, which was considered a breach of contract. However, if the crew replaced Tang Yu without Shanghai's consent, it would be considered a breach of contract, and the penalty would be very high. As a result, after a meeting, not to mention the director's team, even Shanghai's investors directly requested to kick Tang Yu out. The higher-ups were furious. Shanghai originally threw in a lot of capital to support Tang Yu, but in the end, this kind of thing happened. Chapter 3903. One was a ruined artist, the other was an investment worth hundreds of millions. Which one was more important? Shanghai's higher-ups calculated in their hearts. No matter how they thought about it, they still couldn't bear to risk such a high price. They had to cut their losses in time. This was what a capitalist was like. The termination notice was sent all the way to Tang Yu's room. In addition to the verbal notice, there was also a termination document. Tang Yu could only bite the bullet and accept it. If he didn't buy it, then his image would collapse, affect the crew's reputation, and ruin Shanghai's image. This penalty fee was definitely not to be underestimated. He couldn't afford it, so he could only let Shanghai terminate his contract. Even so, the advertising income and signing fees that he had earned since his debut were going to go down the drain. This scandal was simply a disaster. Not to mention the loss of his reputation, his future was completely ruined. Tang Yu was unwilling to accept it. Why? Why did it go down like this? He subconsciously pushed this blame onto Hua Jin. That night, in the dead of the night, Liang Yin had just finished showering and was lying on the bed looking at her phone when the doorbell rang urgently. She was a little nervous, thinking that Hua Jin had something to do with her. She quickly rushed to open the door, but she didn't expect that it was Tang Yu standing at the door. Before Liang Yin could react, Tang Yu squeezed in through the crack in the door, locked the door behind him, turned around, grabbed her collar, and pressed her against the wall. It's you, isn't it? You're the one who wants to kill me? Tang Yu angrily accused and questioned, but it confused Liang Yin. These few days, she had been living in isolation. She didn't know what happened at all, nor did she know that Tang Yu was removed from the crew. Tang Yu, on the other hand, hated the idol to the bone. Everyone knew about Huan Yu's actions online these few days, and Hua Jin was an artist under Huan Yu. It must be Hua Jin's counterattack. Of course, he blamed all of this on Hua Jin. This matter was supposed to be settled. Tang Yu said angrily, you and I are different. Even if you have such a scandal, even if you lose fans, there will still be countless fans supporting you. But what about me? I just debuted and don't have a strong foundation. If something like this happens, I will definitely die. Why do you want to harm me? Why do you want to implicate me? Liang Yin listened for a long time and finally figured out why Tang Yu was looking for her. It was actually because of this matter. Liang Yin was also infuriated. Previously, her feelings for Tang Yu might be complicated to say. After all, Tang Yu was her idol. Although she knew about Tang Yu's past, her feelings for him were still complicated. She liked him, but also felt disappointed and lost. It was just that he did not expect Tang Yu to be so excessive and push all these things to Hua Jin. Liang Yin said angrily, what does this have to do with flowers? What does this have to do with me? Is that child mine? Did I do that? That day she was squatting in the corner of the hotel. Why did you ask her? If you didn't ask her, the media wouldn't have made an issue of this matter at all. Yes. I did it out of kindness. I cared about her. So, is my kindness my fault? Chapter 3904. She got pregnant because of you, but you shut her out. Is life so worthless to you? Until now, you haven't repented for your first love. You don't feel guilty at all, and you're blaming it all on me. Did I do this? If you're a man, you have to take responsibility for your own actions. What kind of man are you to push the blame onto someone else? Tang Yu said angrily, how am I not a man? Who knows that the child in her stomach must be mine? Who can prove it? I only did it once with her. How can she get pregnant after just one time? If she could get pregnant after just one time, why didn't anyone else get pregnant but her? Liang Yin was even angrier. You're not just one scourge. Ha! Scourge? How is that a scourge? It's them who want to do something with me. I'm just fulfilling their wishes. God knows how many people are jealous of them. Not everyone gets to have intimate contact with their idols. Tang Yu arrogantly thought that the fans were lucky to be in close contact with him. It was their blessing. He even thought it was a gift, a charity. Liang Yin was completely stunned. How could she know that Tang Yu actually saw all of this as a gift? In her anger, she subconsciously blurted out, who do you think you are? Do you think you're a god? Tang Yu, don't overestimate yourself. You're just an artist, a celebrity. The fans like you because you bring positive energy to them. But they didn't expect that what they saw was just an illusion. Your fans are so pitiful. To fall in love with an idol like you, they're really feeding their passion to the dogs. Tang Yu was so angry that he laughed. Hua Jin, what right do you have to say such things? Who do you think you are? You're just a celebrity. To put it nicely, you're an idol. To put it bluntly, you're just an actor. Yes, you've never slept with a fan. You're pure, you're noble. But don't think I don't know that you were sold into the entertainment industry by your father. Before you debuted, you were just a waitress in a bar. How clean do you think you are? You're dirtier than me. I slept with a fan, you're an old man's mistress. Liang Yin's face suddenly turned serious, and she said in a deep voice, watch your mouth. What? You're still unwilling to face what you've done? Liang Yin was so angry that her eyes turned red. She slapped Tang Yu hard on the face. Shameless. Tang Yu's face was slapped to the side. He turned back in disbelief and glared at him. You're not even willing to admit what you've done? How dare you say I'm shameless? No matter what, Hua Jin will always be nobler than you. After a pause, Liang Yin continued, no matter how bad it is, he won't play with his fans, and he won't treat his fans' sincerity like dirt. He wouldn't humiliate his fans like this. Yes, ha, ha. Who doesn't know you have a lot of fans? Who doesn't know that you have tens of times more fans than me? A few hundred times? Or even thousands of times? If you really want to play with them and sleep with them one by one, you won't be able to take care of them one by one. Seeing that Tang Yu's words were getting more and more outrageous, Liang Yin was so angry that her whole body trembled. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was hurried, accompanied by occasional knocks on the door. Chapter 3905. Hua Jin, who was in the next room, heard the noise and thought that something had happened to Liang Yin. Just now, when she was arguing with Tang Yu, the vase on the table fell and made a noise. It didn't break, but it caused a lot of noise. Hua Jin heard it and rushed over. Liang Yin. Liang Yin, are you there? What happened? Liang Yin opened the door. It's Hua Jin. Tang Yu was stunned. Liang Yin's body also froze. Tang Yu looked back at the door, and then looked back at Liang Yin, feeling incredulous. He recognized this voice. Wasn't it Hua Jin's assistant? Why did she call Hua Jin Liang Yin? This, Tang Yu didn't react. He wouldn't think about it in any other way. Liang Yin pushed him away and walked to the door. She tidied up her messy clothes and opened the door. Hua Jin rushed in all of a sudden. Before he could say anything, he saw Tang Yu standing to the side. His clothes were a little messy. Then he looked at Liang Yin's body. There were obvious traces of wrinkles on her collar. He wasn't stupid. He immediately guessed what Tang Yu was here for. Bastard. Hua Jin cursed and rushed over. He raised his leg and kicked Tang Yu in the stomach. Tang Yu groaned and sat on the ground. Hua Jin lunged over and grabbed him by the collar. Tang Yu didn't know how the girl in front of him, who looked gentle and weak, could have so much strength. He didn't expect it. On the side, Liang Yin finally came back to her senses. She walked over and held Hua Jin's hand. She said anxiously, Hua Jin, don't be impulsive. Calm down, don't do anything. Hua Jin didn't look at her. Instead, he asked Tang Yu coldly, what are you doing in her room? It's none of your business. Tang Yu shouted defiantly, no matter how down and out I am, it's not up to a mere assistant like you to lecture me and question me. Bang! Without a second thought, Hua Jin punched him in the face. Fortunately, he found out in time and rushed over when he heard the commotion. If he was late, he didn't know what Tang Yu would do to Liang Yin. Even though he had summoned Liang Yin's body, his mentality as a man did not change. In his eyes, even though Liang Yin had a man's body, she was still a girl. He hated scum who bullied women the most. Tang Yu, you're a bastard. You toyed with your fans, and now that the truth is out, no matter how pitiful you are just asking for trouble. Now, whether it's the director's team, the production crew, or even the top management of your company, everyone wants to get rid of you. How dare you come looking for trouble? What does that have to do with you? Tang Yu angrily pushed his hand away. It has nothing to do with you. This is a matter between me and Hua Jin. It's not up to you to interfere. However, you are really a loyal dog. How much do you think Hua Jin values you? You are just a small assistant, a dog. Your master may not see you as a human. This guy was clearly trying to drive a wedge between them. Now, he was at the end of his rope. Thinking about it, he didn't have a good time. Even if he brought some bad luck to Hua Jin, he would feel a little better and happier. Liang Yin was angry, but how could Hua Jin not hear the malice in Tang Yu's words? Stop trying to play tricks on me. Chapter 3906. Even though Hua Jin was in Liang Yin's body, it was as if he could swallow mountains and rivers. Even Tang Yu felt incredulous. He was actually scared by this thin and small woman in front of him who seemed to be unable to withstand a single blow. By the time he reacted, Hua Jin had already dragged him to the door. He opened the door and pointed outside. Now, I'll give you a chance to get out of here. If you don't want to leave, fine. I'll immediately get the media to come in and say that Tang Yu broke into Hua Jin's room at night to seek revenge. What do you think of this headline? After he mentioned it, Tang Yu realized that it was a dangerous moment. If he ran to the door and attracted the media reporters, then he wouldn't be able to leave even if he wanted to. Tang Yu gritted his teeth and scolded angrily, "You're ruthless." With that, he stood up, straightened his collar, and walked away. He knew that he had completely offended Hua Jin, so he didn't have to say anything nice anymore. On impulse, he wanted to find Hua Jin to reason with him and vent his anger. In the end, he saw Liang Yin, who was Hua Jin at that time, leisurely enjoying her leisure time in the room. When he thought about how he was so embarrassed to hide from the media, he felt that it was very unfair. Why? Why is it that Hua Jin has so much dirt on him? Why does it feel like he can still thrive while I can't make it in the industry anymore? Everyone made mistakes. Why did the fans and the public have zero tolerance for him and turn a blind eye to all of Hua Jin's scandals in the past? He felt that it was unfair. He didn't realize that the nature of his mistake was different from Hua Jin's. Liang Yin walked to Hua Jin's side and checked him up and down. "Are you okay?" Hua Jin shook his head. "I'm fine." "He didn't hurt you?" "Humph, you're underestimating me." Hua Jin stretched his muscles and put on a "I'm brother Hua" posture as he said arrogantly, "It's just a skinny Tang Yu. What can he do to me?" "Ha ha ha, you're so skinny, I don't feel like I have any meat on my body. I'm all bones. Even if I punch him, it'll be light." After a pause, Hua Jin said worriedly, "What about you? How are you? Did he make things difficult for me?" Liang Yin said angrily, "What do you think? If he didn't come to make things difficult for me, why would he knock on my door?" When Hua Jin heard this, he couldn't help but flicked her forehead. Liang Yin held her forehead in pain and glared at him. "What? Will you open the door for anyone who knocks?" I thought it's you. Why are you banging on the door so urgently? Can't you look through the peephole? What if it's a reporter?" I thought something had happened. During this period of time, I've been on tenterhooks. I thought something had happened again. You're hopelessly stupid. You don't even have your guard up. Hua Jin walked to the sofa and sat down. He instructed, "Next time, make sure you see clearly who's standing at the door before you open the door. Being a celebrity is dangerous. Don't let an anti-fan sneak into the hotel and stand at the door. What if you don't see who it is and get splashed with sulfuric acid when you open the door?" Chapter 3907. That's because you know too little. Hua Jin continued, "Many anti-fans are very resourceful. Moreover, some of them are scumbags. They are all negative energy. Moreover, no one knows what ridiculous things they will do in the next second." Liang Yin was very curious when she heard this. "Looks like you've encountered anti-fans taking revenge on you before?" Of course. When Hua Jin mentioned it, he was actually a little proud. "After all, I've died once." "That's so exaggerated. What happened?" "I remember in the past, when I took part in a program, I met a fanatical fan backstage who claimed to be my loyal fan. She gave me a bouquet of flowers and a bottle of water. When I saw how enthusiastic she was, I didn't suspect anything and drank it in one gulp. When I drank it, I felt fine. But after a while, I felt that something was wrong." When Liang Yin heard this, she was so nervous that her heart clenched up. "What happened?" "That person put superglue in the water." "Superglue?" Liang Yin's eyes widened. "If that thing is mixed in the water, it's very deadly." "Yeah." Hua Jin nodded and said, "After that, I didn't think much of it. Because I would never have thought that someone would put superglue in a drink." "When you drank it, didn't you feel that something was wrong?" "I just felt that the taste was a little off. There wasn't any sticky part of it like glue. It might have been diluted by something." Hua Jin continued, "After that, I wanted to go back to the resting room. On the way back, I suddenly blacked out and fainted. After that, I don't know what happened. When I woke up, I was already in the emergency room. I was in a daze and was forced to vomit. Anyway, I was tortured until I was half dead before I managed to pull through." Hua Jin could no longer remember how painful it was in the resuscitation room back then. Everyone thought that he wouldn't be able to pull through. He didn't even realize how dangerous his situation was. He didn't even know how he ended up in the emergency room. At that time, his manager was standing outside the emergency room, panicking. The doctor told him that he had swallowed the superglue and that his life was in danger. The manager was scared half to death. The previous bottle of drink was sent to the police for identification. According to the extracted substance, it was found that it was mixed with a high concentration of superglue. At the same time, the anti-fan who pretended to be a fan was quickly arrested by the police. In the operating room, Hua Jin went through a lot of pain. Fortunately, he was rescued in time. In the end, it was announced that he was out of danger. Later on, he found out that the procedures that were carried out in the operating theater before this were gastric lavage and vomiting induction. He drank the drink mixed with glue. After an investigation, it turned out that the anti-fan was dissatisfied with Hua Jin's rising popularity. She was a fan of another male celebrity. It was all because Hua Jin had played a game with that male celebrity on a show. Because it was a sports game, Hua Jin's motor skills were quite good. It was a crushing victory. She was so angry that she came up with this plan. This incident caused a huge sensation. And that male celebrity couldn't withstand the pressure of public opinion and came forward to apologize. Chapter 3908. Fortunately, I'm in good physical condition, so I got through it. But, Hua Jin raised his eyebrows. Thanks to that fan, I had serious gastric problems for a long time. Even after recuperating for so long, my stomach is still very weak. I can't eat anything too stimulating. When Liang Yin heard this, she frowned. How could something like this happen? Before that, I wouldn't have thought about it. I also wouldn't have thought that there would be such a hateful person like an anti-fan. Hua Jin said as he stood up. He went to the bar and poured himself a glass of water. He took a sip and said, "In the past, I used to cherish everything that my fans gave me. But since then, even if I had a good mentality, my assistant, my manager, and any fan's gifts would be separated from me in advance. If it's a drink, food, or snack, they would throw it away directly without looking at it. Toys and jewelry, after checking if there's no problem, would be donated to the appropriate charity in my name." Perhaps he was traumatized. After that, when other celebrities received drinks and snacks from their fans, they didn't dare to drink or eat them easily. Never underestimate a person's darkness. Hua Jin glanced at Liang Yin and couldn't help but lecture her. Do you know that Tang Yu is under a lot of pressure from public opinion now? It could be said that his acting career was most likely ruined. What if he resents you and wants to take revenge on you? Liang Yin didn't think much of it. Just take revenge. Hua Jin couldn't believe it. Why are you speaking so casually? Do you really think he won't dare to do it? He has nothing now. He lost his resources, he lost his future. You can say that he has nothing. What if he's desperate and has evil thoughts and kills you? That won't happen, right? Liang Yin was so angry that she laughed. He has to pay with his life for killing. If he dares to do anything to you, you have so many fans. Everyone's saliva will drown him. Although it's not your body, you can't be so careless. Hua Jin said angrily. You have to protect yourself, okay? Liang Yin nodded guiltily and mumbled, I know. In the future, I will pay attention and protect myself well. Yes. Only then did Hua Jin feel more at ease. He wasn't making a mountain out of a molehill. The entertainment industry was just a vanity fair. It was foul and there was no one there. Tang Yu had been eliminated from this circle. Who knew what he would do? Hua Jin was still worried, so he called Qin Zhou and asked him to send 2 bodyguards to protect Liang Yin. Qin Zhou agreed, saying that he would make arrangements immediately and that he could rest assured. Hua Jin hung up the phone and saw Liang Yin staring at a place in a daze. He asked suspiciously, What are you thinking about? Liang Yin regained her senses and smiled stiffly. Oh, it's nothing. I was just in a daze. Don't tell me you're feeling sorry for her. What's there to feel bad about? I feel sorry for your idol. After all, didn't you used to like Tang Yu a lot? Liang Yin sneered contemptuously. It's because the more I liked him, the more disappointed I was. The more I liked him, the more I thought I was ridiculous. How could I fall in love with such a scumbag and see him as a positive energy idol? Chapter 3909. When Liang Yin heard this, she didn't refute him. Instead, she said seriously, I used to think that you didn't have the ability and that you relied on your diehard fans to support you. But now, I feel that you're very good. You're really a high-quality idol. Hua Jin was stunned. There was a mouthful of water in his mouth. He didn't know whether to spit it out or swallow it. It took him a long time to realize that Liang Yin was praising him. He didn't come back to his senses for a while. When he came back to his senses, he swallowed the water in his mouth with a gulp. He said exaggeratedly, You're actually praising me? He was just mocking himself. He didn't expect her to praise him so seriously. These are my heartfelt words. Liang Yin raised the corner of her lips in a mocking manner. Perhaps it's really hard for people to understand other people's situations. Not everyone can put themselves in their shoes. After I changed identities with you, only when I became a real celebrity did I understand how deep the waters of the entertainment industry are, how dirty people can be, and how difficult it is to be a celebrity. Seeing that Liang Yin looked serious, Hua Jin sighed. It's really not easy. It's very tiring. Yeah, I just feel like I'm tied up in very heavy chains. Sometimes, it really feels very difficult. Hua Jin said meaningfully, Heaven and earth are like a cage. No one is a body of shackles. When Liang Yin heard this, she didn't speak for a long time. After a long time, she smiled and said, Yeah, heaven and earth are like a cage. No one is not a body of heavy shackles. The two of them looked at each other. Liang Yin suddenly leaned over and said, Speaking of which, there's something that I'm more concerned about. Yeah? Tell me. Do you like women or men? Luckily, Hua Jin didn't have any water in his mouth. Otherwise, he would have spat it out. Why are you asking this? Because I feel that there's a huge problem with your sexual orientation. What problem? When we went to the hot spring in the middle of the mountain, I felt that you and that man called Gong Jia seemed very ambiguous. It would have been better if Liang Yin hadn't mentioned it. At the mention of the name Gong Jia, Hua Jin's face instantly turned red. What do you mean by ambiguous? What can I have with him? Hua Jin said angrily, Don't talk nonsense. I'm a straight man. Steel bars? When Liang Yin heard this, she burst out laughing. I can't tell. Instead, I feel like you're a straight man who's like a rubber band. Hua Jin's face turned green and purple, purple and black, black and red, red and white. In the blink of an eye, there were thousands of changes. He stood up angrily and was about to leave. Liang Yin quickly stopped him. What are you doing? Why are you angry just like that? Hua Jin questioned her with an ashen face. Do you know that questioning a man's sexual orientation is the greatest insult to him? I was just joking. Is this kind of test a joke? Hua Jin was really angry. Liang Yin sized up his expression. Seeing that he was really angry, she couldn't understand. Normally, when people hear such things, they'd just laugh it off. At most, they'd clarify and wouldn't take it to heart. Why are you taking it so seriously? Liang Yin reminded him carefully. Why do I feel like you're trying to cover it up? Don't talk nonsense. Chapter 39:10. Liang Yin smiled and said calmly, I didn't say that you like men. Maybe the person you like is a man. Hua Jin was taken aback. He actually fell into a daze because of this sentence. That's right. Why do I feel uneasy when I'm facing Gong Jie? He even felt uneasy and wanted to avoid it. Could it be, Hua Jin bit his knuckles. Could it be that he was really interested in Gong Jie subconsciously? No, this was Liang Yin's way of inducing him. Hua Jin jerked his head up and glanced at her. His gaze was like a torch. Liang Yin was stunned. What are you looking at? Hurry up and memorize the script. Liang Yin felt wronged. Memorize what script? Didn't the crew stop filming? Because of Tang Yu. It's not certain when they will resume filming. If they resume filming and you don't memorize your lines, it'll be too late even if you work all night. With that said, Hua Jin found the script and threw it in front of her. Fix the script first. Liang Yin said, oh. She reluctantly picked up the script and looked at it silently. Hua Jin left the room. Liang Yin buried her face in the script until she watched him leave. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. Hua Jin returned to his room and lay on the bed. He was so frustrated that he tossed and turned, but he couldn't fall asleep. He covered his face with the blanket. No, could it be that he had been single for too long? So he started to think about it and even started to doubt his sexual orientation. Qinzhou. In the coffee shop. Hua Jin stirred his coffee with empty eyes. Qinzhou, who was sitting opposite him, raised his eyebrows and glanced at him. What's wrong? Do you have feelings for men? Pfft, Qinzhou almost spat out the coffee in his mouth. He widened his eyes and snorted coldly. He said expressionlessly, my sexual orientation is normal. What's wrong? Did your sexual orientation change when you became a woman? Of course not. Hua Jin insisted, I like women. His repeated emphasis had aroused Qinzhou's suspicion. Why are you emphasizing it so much? You make it sound like you're brainwashing me. Some people are suspicious of my sexual orientation. Oh. Weren't there always people who were suspicious? The issue of Hua Jin's sexual orientation had always been a hot topic for the media. Many paparazzi suspected that Hua Jin was gay. Of course, this question had not been verified yet. What's the big deal about liking men? Qinzhou continued, in the industry, men like men and women like women. It's actually a common occurrence. There were also those who liked both men and women. That's the best for investors. In this circle, some investors were particularly playful. Not only did they have a lot of women, but they also had a lot of young men as their mistresses. In fact, a person's potential orientation was uncertain. Sometimes, when a man liked another man, it wasn't because he was gay. It was purely because the person he liked was a man. It won't be long before Tang Yu's dismissal from the crew is announced to the public. Qinzhou took a sip of his coffee. You should urge Liang Yin to consolidate the script. The crew will probably resume filming soon. Then, Hua Jin asked tentatively, who will replace Tang Yu's role? Chapter 39:11. Just as Qinzhou said, not long after, the announcement of Tang Yu's removal from the cast was posted online. Weibo and all major media outlets reported on the incident. Soon, the person who replaced Tang Yu's role was posted on a poster. However, because he was a newcomer who had just debuted, he was selected by the sponsors. Although he was a newcomer, to be selected by the sponsors, he must have a lot of connections. However, he wasn't famous and didn't receive much attention. Soon, the incident came to an end with Tang Yu and Sunhai terminating their contract. It seemed that Huanyu and Sunhai had reached an agreement. Sunhai had promised Huanyu a lot of benefits, so Huanyu didn't pursue the matter. Without the media adding fuel to the fire, there were no more articles about it. The heat of the matter quickly died down. The crew resumed filming and Liang Yin became busy again. She complained a lot. In order to film, she was so busy every day. The weather was getting colder, she had to wear thin clothes, dance swords in the cold wind, and hang a wire. The first time she hung a wire, she was scared out of her wits. She was so scared that she almost lost half of her life. Hua Jin was also happy to be free. He didn't have to film or work. He had nothing to do in the hotel every day. So, at night, he would occasionally go to bars to drink a few glasses of wine. He hadn't been to bars for a long time. In the past, because he was busy with filming and was a public figure, he could go to such places unscrupulously under rare circumstances. So, he rarely visited. Now that he had the leisure time, he began to visit more diligently. That night, after Liang Yin finished filming, Hua Jin wanted to go to a bar. Liang Yin hadn't been to bars, so she insisted to go. Hua Jin disliked her. "You're a big star now. You can't just go to places like that. What if the paparazzi took a picture of you?" Liang Yin argued, "What's wrong with being a big star? Can't a big star go to a bar to drink? I'm not doing anything bad. I'm just drinking and enjoying the atmosphere of a bar. Can't I?" Hua Jin was speechless, so he could only brace himself and bring her along. When the two of them arrived at the bar, it was still early. Hua Jin wanted to find a booth, but Liang Yin wanted to watch the bartender mix drinks, so she insisted on sitting at the bar counter. Hua Jin couldn't argue with her, so he sat with her at the bar. Liang Yin looked at the bartending and couldn't say anything. Because she rarely came to bars, she always felt that the bar's environment was messy, but now she felt that it was okay. It was not as messy as she had imagined. "Wow. Hua Jin, look, there's fire in that wine." Liang Yin pulled him and pointed at the goblet in the bartender's hand. The fire was burning on the surface of the goblet. "How do you drink this wine? Could it be that he drank it together with the fire?" Hua Jin said, "You have to wait for the fire to go out before you can drink it." "I see." Liang Yin stared at the glass of wine and muttered, "I want to drink." "No, don't drink it." Hua Jin said, "The alcohol content of this wine is so high. If you get drunk, how am I going to carry you back?" Liang Yin was a little unhappy, but because of Hua Jin's warning, she could only watch helplessly. Hua Jin looked at her pitiful face and said to the bartender, "Give me a glass of tomorrow." "Okay. Tomorrow." Chapter 39:12. Is this the name of this drink? Yes. What does it mean? Tomorrow, as the name suggests, after drinking this glass of wine, you'll only wake up tomorrow, so it's called tomorrow. When Liang Yin heard this, she opened her mouth and was a little surprised. Is the alcohol content very high? Yes, it's mixed with vodka. The alcohol content is especially high. Most people would only need to drink 2 sips. Liang Yin was a little doubtful. Is it that exaggerated? She didn't dare to drink it, but she really wanted to try it. How much is this glass? 288 yuan per glass. Liang Yin was speechless again. So expensive? Is it expensive? It's still okay. That's true. You earn a few 100,000 per episode, so a glass of wine is indeed not expensive. Liang Yin said self-righteously. When she was filming for Hua Jin, many of her brain cells had died just from memorizing the lines. It was considered that she was at his beck and call, so it wasn't too much to drink a glass of wine from him. The bartender mixed the tomo and pushed it in front of Liang Yin. Liang Yin took out her cell phone and aimed it at the wine. After taking a few pictures, she kept her cell phone satisfactorily. After she kept her cell phone, the fire in the wine glass was extinguished. She tried to take a sip. However, the wine was fragrant and there was a hint of sweetness. It was quite tasty, but when she tasted it, she could clearly feel the vodka taste. It was a little strong, and when it slid down her throat, her stomach started to burn. She felt warm and her whole body started to heat up. It seems like it's really easy to get drunk. Liang Yin was a little wary as she pushed the wine glass in front of Hua Jin. She was afraid that if she drank this glass, she would get drunk again and get into trouble. Hua Jin couldn't help laughing. "You're not drinking anymore after just 1 sip. I'm afraid that I'll get drunk. This wine is quite nice. It's quite sweet." "Yes, it's because it's nice. There's no concept of drinking too much or too little, so it's easier to get drunk." As they spoke, Hua Jin suddenly felt a man sitting beside him. "Beauty, are you alone?" Hua Jin furrowed his brows and looked in the direction of the voice suspiciously, only to see a young man in a shirt sitting next to her. The man's eyes were bright, and it was obvious that he had some kind of ambition. There was no lack of such men in the bar. When he saw a woman he liked, he would go up and strike up a conversation with her. If the two of them hit it off, then everything would follow naturally. Huajin guessed that this man was probably here to hunt for beauties. He obviously saw him as prey, so he turned his face away and ignored him. What? He seems to be quite hard to please. The man rubbed his chin and looked at him deeply. It had to be said that Liang Yin's appearance was also of the highest quality. Huajin's deliberate indifference had instead ignited the ambition in his heart. Let me ask you, are you alone? Huajin still ignored him. He must be drunk, so there was no need to stoop to his level. Liang Yin also looked at the man curiously, but she was stopped by Huajin. Don't look at him. She leaned close to him and asked nervously, who is he? Do you know him? Do I look like I know him when you look at me? You don't, then don't talk. Liang Yin asked tentatively, why don't we change seats and sit at the bar counter? Huajin glanced at her and said meaningfully, do you know what it means for a woman to sit at the bar counter in this bar? I don't. Chapter 39:13. This, Liang Yin was a little annoyed. No wonder Huajin didn't seem too willing when she pulled him to sit at the bar. So there were such unspoken rules, in bars too. Let's change seats. Okay. The man beside him saw that Huajin had been ignoring him from start to finish and finally got impatient. He suddenly stood up and leaned towards him. He grabbed his chin and forced him to turn around. I'm talking to you. Why are you ignoring me? Huajin struggled and wanted to push him away. He felt disgusted when he was touched by him. Liang Yin stood up and swung the man's hand away. She said angrily, what are you doing? Show some respect. The man had obviously drunk too much. After half a round of drinks, he had lost his patience. Seeing that Liang Yin dared to swat his hand away, he pushed Huajin away and pulled Liang Yin in front of him. What did you just say? Huajin was about to stop her, but Liang Yin was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. She ignored the man's threatening gaze and scolded expressionlessly, I'm telling you to be more respectful. Don't touch my female companion. Bam, the man abruptly pushed her and swung his arm. Liang Yin instantly lost her center of gravity. Due to the inertia, she crashed into a bar chair at the side and fell harshly to the ground. She frowned in pain but did not make a sound. Anxiously, Huajin rushed over and tried to help her up in a fluster. The man walked over, held her hand, and pulled her to his side. What are you doing? Huajin struggled a little. Let go of me. The man pinched his chin and looked at him carefully. He was satisfied. She's quite pretty. After a pause, his contemptuous gaze fell on Liang Yin. Is she your girl? Hee, then today, your girl is mine. What? Without waiting for Huajin to question him, the man immediately grabbed his face, pressed his mouth down, and kissed him fiercely. The smell of alcohol in his mouth blew onto his face. Huajin's entire body stiffened. Feeling the man's kiss, he felt extremely disgusted, as if he had been bitten by a dog. He used all his strength to push him away and forcefully wiped away the man's remaining warmth on his mouth. Disgusting. Are you crazy? Huajin resisted the urge to slap her and said angrily, don't touch me with your dirty hands. You have a bit of a temper. The man sneered, but, I like it. Women are like wine, the stronger the better. Liang Yin couldn't stand it anymore, especially when she saw the man kissing Huajin forcefully. She felt disgusted and immediately got up from the ground. She stepped forward and grabbed Huajin's hand. Let's go. Don't talk nonsense with him. Huajin was still angry. However, he knew in his heart that he didn't know the man's identity. Now was not the time to confront him. There were too many people and they couldn't stay for long. If they attracted attention and were recognized, the loss would outweigh the gain. He didn't know if there were reporters in this bar. This bar was known as the entertainment industry's Hall of Fame. Some well-known directors, producers, and celebrities would patronize this bar because the owner of this bar was jointly opened by a few celebrities. It was a side business. Hence, most of the patrons were related to the entertainment industry. In this industry, it was better to suffer more grievances than to offend people. Chapter 39:14. Hua Jin was just about to pull Liang Yin away. Just as the two of them reached the entrance of the bar, they were stopped by a few men who appeared out of nowhere. Hua Jin glanced at them and subconsciously reached for the phone in his pocket. Immediately, a man strode forward and snatched the phone from his hand. Without even looking at it, he threw it on the ground and stomped on it a few times. "What, you want to call the police? Hee, let me tell you, our brother Hui is the least afraid of the police. Even the chief of the police station has to listen to his father's orders." The few men reeked of alcohol and must have drunk a lot. It would be fine if a drinker was drunk, but he was afraid that when he was half drunk, his mind was not clear and he was easily agitated. Hua Jin did not want to offend them, so he forced a smile. "Sorry. It's like this, he doesn't know any better and offended your big brother just now. I'm really sorry. How about this, I'll get her to apologize to all of you. It's getting late, we're planning to leave." Liang Yin also understood what Hua Jin meant. She did not want to blow things up, so she quickly smiled and said, "Sorry, I was too agitated just now and offended you." Behind him, the man walked over and walked in front of Hua Jin. He snorted, "Don't you think it's too late to admit your mistake now? However, it's not like there's no chance to make up for it. How about this, tonight, if you come with me, I'll let your boyfriend go, how about it?" "Brother Hui. This man looks familiar. I think I've seen him on TV before, could he be some big star? There have always been a lot of celebrities in this bar, who wouldn't give my brother Hui some face." "Exactly. I recognize him, isn't this the big star Hua Jin?" It was not known who had sharp eyes and recognized him. Before Liang Yin went out, she had carefully disguised herself. However, her extremely recognizable facial features still allowed people to recognize who the person in front of them was. Hua Jin, a big star. This is incredible. This woman should be his assistant. The man said coldly, "Your assistant will accompany me for one night. As for the rest, we'll write it off." "How about that?" Liang Yin said firmly, "No." Hua Jin pulled Liang Yin back and gave her a look. "You go back first." He frowned and mouthed, "Go back and look for Qin Zhou." Liang Yin immediately understood, but before she could react, she was pushed out of the door by Hua Jin. "Flower, you go back first." Hua Jin maintained his composure and smiled at her. "I'll be back later." As he spoke, he winked at Liang Yin, hinting for her to quickly find Qin Zhou to save the day. Liang Yin did not dare to delay. She quickly turned around and left. She had never encountered such a situation before, so she was so nervous that her whole body was trembling. She rushed to the intersection and hurriedly hailed a taxi. However, just as she got into the car, she realized that she did not have any money on her. The driver did not recognize her and asked, "Where are you going?" "To the film studio first, okay." The driver hit the meter and the car sped in the direction of the film studio. Liang Yin's hand trembled as she took out her phone. She had specially saved Qin Zhou's number in her phone. She hesitated for a few seconds and immediately dialed. Chapter 39:15. "Hello?" Qin Zhou's sleepy voice came from the other end of the line. He had a lot of free time recently. After settling Hua Jin's matter, he had given himself a long holiday. Hence, he slept earlier than usual. "Qin Zhou." Liang Yin called out anxiously, "Qin Zhou, something bad has happened." Qin Zhou was in a daze. He couldn't tell if it was Hua Jin or Liang Yin who was calling him. He snorted and asked, "What's the matter?" "Hua Jin. Hua Jin has been detained." "What's the matter?" Qin Zhou muttered unhappily, "What's the matter?" Tell me directly. Liang Yin kept her composure and told him what had happened in a concise and comprehensive manner. Qin Zhou ruffled his hair in frustration, but his voice was calm. Wait for me at the bar. I'll come over right away. I didn't bring any money with me, Liang Yin muttered weakly. The taxi driver heard this and raised his eyebrows. He was alarmed. You didn't bring any money to take a taxi? Someone will pay for my ride. On the other end of the line, Qin Zhou heard this and said, Nonsense. Take a taxi and come to my place first. Ming City Apartments. I'll wait for you downstairs. Okay. After Liang Yin gave him the address, the driver grumbled a few times before heading to the apartment in Ming City. When the car arrived at Ming City Apartments, Qin Zhou opened the door and got into the car. After getting into the car, Qin Zhou told the driver the address without hesitation. Suhi Bar. What? Take a detour? The driver was gloomy. Are you kidding me? Qin Zhou narrowed his eyes and glared at him unhappily. I'll lodge a complaint if you continue to nag. The driver didn't say anything else. He made a U-turn and drove straight to the bar. Liang Yin sat beside him and glanced at him cautiously. She saw that Qin Zhou had changed into his usual attire. However, his hair was a little messy, perhaps because he had just gotten out of bed. There was a faint mint fragrance on his body. I don't know where it came from. Qin Zhou realized that Liang Yin was secretly sizing him up. He turned back to look at her and couldn't help but reach out to pinch her face. All of you are messing around. Instead of sleeping in the middle of the night and memorizing the script, you went to a bar to play. You really have a lot of free time. For some reason, Liang Yin was instinctively afraid of Qin Zhou. Even though Qin Zhou was young, Hua Jin's manager and had a handsome face, Tang Ning never dared to look him in the eye. Perhaps it was because he had the aura of a dignified leader with an intimidating presence. It's boring to memorize a script. You can hang out in bars if you're bored. Qin Zhou snorted. The bar is such a messy place. It's fine if Hua Jin goes alone to mess around, but if you go with him, I'll have to clean up the mess for you. Liang Yin bit her lip guiltily. Who detained Hua Jin? Liang Yin hesitated for a long time, but she couldn't come up with a reason. She just said, I don't know either. I don't expect you to know either. Qin Zhou sighed helplessly and took out a cigarette from his cigarette box. He put it in his mouth and lit it up. The mint-flavored scent of the cigarette filled the car. The driver said, You can't smoke in the car. Qin Zhou said, Just drive. Don't be a busybody. The driver replied. Oh. Chapter 39:16. After the car arrived at the bar, Qin Zhou casually threw out $200 bills and got out of the car with Liang Yin by her collar. In that instant, Liang Yin felt as if she, who was 1.8 meters tall, was like a little bunny next to Qin Zhou. She said weakly, Don't carry me. I can walk on my own. Oh. I thought your legs had turned to jelly from the fright. My legs didn't turn to jelly. Then why were you shaking in the car just now? Liang Yin held it in for a long time. It was cold. Qin Zhou glanced at her, puzzled. Suddenly, he smiled, revealing his snow-white teeth. Liang Yin looked at him and asked curiously, Are you the only one here? If not, how many people do you need? They have a lot of people. Won't you get bullied if you're alone? Qin Zhou snorted softly. All right, since you're so timid, just wait for me at the entrance of the bar. Don't move. No, I want to go in with you. Liang Yin was also worried about Hua Jin. Seeing that she said so, Qin Zhou didn't say anything, which was a tacit agreement. The two of them walked into the bar one after the other. In the afternoon, the music was loud and boisterous. Qin Zhou walked through the unrestrained crowd to the beat of the music. He walked all the way to the bar counter and said to the bartender, Call your manager out. The bartender didn't even look at him. He thought that Qin Zhou was drunk and was here to pick a fight. Without looking up, he said, "The manager isn't here." Qin Zhou didn't say anything. He picked up an empty bottle beside him and smashed it on the bar counter. The broken bottle scattered everywhere. The people around all stood up in shock and looked at Qin Zhou in horror. Not far away, the manager who was patrolling the bar heard the commotion and hurried over. At the same time, the bartender saw that Qin Zhou was openly smashing the bar and said angrily, "What are you doing? Picking a fight? Do you know whose bar this is? What's going on?" The manager hurried over. When he saw Qin Zhou, he recognized him immediately and greeted him politely. "Brother Qin, why are you here?" Qin Zhou's reputation in the entertainment industry was like thunder. If the manager couldn't even recognize Qin Zhou, he definitely wouldn't be able to get to this position. When the bartender saw the manager nodding and bowing to this man, he was stunned and guiltily put his hands behind his back. Qin Zhou glanced at the bartender and then at the manager. "Am I seeing a ghost? Didn't you say that the manager isn't here?" The manager glared at the bartender and scoffed, "This is not a place for you to act rashly. Hurry up and get lost. Don't come to work tomorrow. Manager, cut the crap and scram." The bartender bit his lips in grievance and immediately left. The manager rubbed his palms together and smiled apologetically. "Brother Qin, it's so late. Are you here for a drink? You haven't been here often recently. You must be busy, right? Don't talk nonsense with me." Qin Zhou said coldly, "My artist's assistant was detained by the customers of your bar. Do you remember this? I think." "I can't remember," Qin Zhou asked slowly. "You have no recollection of it at all?" Even though he didn't show it on his face, his voice seemed to carry some dissatisfaction. Chapter 39:17. You know, with our status, how can we afford to offend those young masters? Most of them just turn a blind eye to it. I'm not sure. In this bar, those young masters often came to hunt for women and sometimes caused trouble. As the manager, he did not dare to offend them. He knew about this, but because it was only a celebrity assistant who was detained, it was not a big deal. In this line of work, even an assistant could not escape the unspoken rules. But anyone who stepped into this line of work had a strong background, and others usually did not dare to touch them. Moreover, it was just an assistant. It was not worth it to ruin the relationship with those young masters for an assistant. Qin Zhou gradually lost his patience. When people cause trouble, you're afraid of hurting the relationship, so you turn a blind eye to it. "So, as the manager, you don't care if I cause trouble?" The manager said. "Brother Qin, don't, even if I ruin this place, your masters might not dare to pursue it. But your position as the manager is not stable. How about this?" The manager could not stand the scare and quickly said with a smile, "I'll go and find out for you the background of those young masters who detained your people. How about this, okay? Don't worry, as long as it's your people, we'll protect them well. Even if we can't protect them, we'll call you immediately if anything happens. I don't have much time. Hurry." Okay, right away." The manager quickly sent someone. On the other hand, he immediately arranged for Qin Zhou and Liang Yin to be safely arranged in a private room and served them good wine and tea. After a while, someone rushed over and said that the people who took away Hua Jin were the young masters of Wuxian Films. Wuxian Films? Qin Zhou had heard of Wuxian Films. Although they were not famous, their background was not to be underestimated. The big boss of Wuxian Films had an extraordinary background and was not someone to be offended. I heard that the young directors of Wuxian Film and Television brought a few women upstairs. They seemed to have drunk quite a lot. They must have had too much to drink. Upstairs? Yes, the hotel upstairs. Qin Zhou ordered, "Help me find out their room number." Standing in the hotel elevator, Liang Yin rubbed her hands nervously, afraid that something might happen to Hua Jin. He was alone and weak. He didn't know how he would be bullied. Qin Zhou, on the other hand, appeared very calm. Liang Yin asked curiously, "Aren't you worried about Hua Jin?" "What's the use of worrying? He's an adult now. Since he offended someone, he should be taught a lesson. Liang Yin said weakly, actually, I offended someone this time. Hua Jin went with them to protect me. That's not a reason. Since you're already an adult, it's not your first time entering such a place. Liang Yin, on the other hand, felt extremely guilty. If she hadn't insisted on sitting at the bar counter, she wouldn't have attracted bees and butterflies and made things difficult for Hua Jin. I was wrong. Liang Yin looked apologetic. Qin Zhou snorted. Go back and write a 5,000-word self-criticism letter. 5,000 words. Liang Yin widened her eyes. So many words. Why? Do you have any thoughts? No, no thoughts. I'll go back and write, ding. The elevator door opened. Chapter 39:18. Walking to the door, Qin Zhou was about to slam the door when he heard a thud, as if something heavy had been thrown on the door. Oh no. The thing that Qin Zhou was most worried about had happened. Beside him, Liang Yin saw that Qin Zhou's face had finally revealed an anxious expression. She was also worried that something had happened to Hua Jin. She patted the door worriedly and said, Hua Jin. Is Hua Jin here? Get out of the way. Qin Zhou pushed Liang Yin to the side. Taking half a step back, he gathered his strength and kicked the door open with a flying kick. He rushed in anxiously. As expected, when he saw the scene in front of him, he held his forehead in pain. Liang Yin couldn't see the situation in the room, but she saw that Qin Zhou's expression wasn't looking too good. When she finally saw the situation in the room, the corner of her lips twitched violently and her face darkened. Ouch, it hurts, someone come, one by one, the men were lying on the ground, crying out in pain as if they were going to die. Hua Jin stood in the middle of the crowd and glanced coldly at the room. Seeing that most of the people had been taken care of, he clapped his hands and said speechlessly, You're still showing off in front of me with this little ability? Qin Zhou cleared his throat and frowned as he said, Hua Jin. Hua Jin turned around and was shocked to see that it was Qin Zhou. Qin. Boss. Qin Zhou walked over and raised his hand to give him a knock on the head. Didn't I tell you to restrain yourself? If you cripple them, you won't be able to pay for the lives of these young masters even if you sell yourself. Hua Jin trembled and whistled guiltily. Liang Yin saw this scene from the side and was a little dumbfounded. Hua Jin. Hua Jin was actually so skilled. No wonder Hua Jin looked so relaxed at the bar and asked her to leave first. No wonder Qin Zhou was so calm when he heard about this. He didn't seem to be worried at all. He was very calm. No wonder Qin Zhou was so nervous when he heard the commotion in the room. It wasn't because he was worried that something bad had happened to Hua Jin. Instead, he was worried that Hua Jin would cripple the others. I can't tell. The seemingly weak Hua Jin actually had such a valiant side to him? Liang Yin looked around in a daze and mumbled, Hua Jin, are you always so tough? I've filmed historical dramas before, so I can be considered half a martial artist. These weaklings are more than enough. Hua Jin also felt a little guilty. He complained to Qin Zhou, don't you know that this group of beasts? They actually wanted to do something to me. How could I let them succeed? I struggled and resisted, but they wanted to use force. I had no choice but to take action. Qin Zhou rolled his eyes at him. Didn't I tell you to keep your distance? Of course I did. Hua Jin retorted, I kept my distance. Don't worry, they definitely won't break their arms or legs, nor will they be injured. It's just some flesh wounds at most. There's nothing else. Oh. Qin Zhou snorted coldly. Damn it, I'm the one who has to clean up the mess for you. Hua Jin pretended to be pitiful and said, What can you do? You can't just stand by and watch me get molested by them, right? Liang Yin asked curiously, How did they treat you just now? They wanted to do that to me. Hua Jin clenched his fists angrily. They wanted to rape me. Chapter 39:19. When Liang Yin heard this, her anger rose. She ignored Qin Zhou's strange look and walked over to the men who were rolling around on the ground in pain. She gave them a few more kicks. Hua Jin rushed over to pull her back. Okay, I've already taught them a lesson. Don't add more. These bastards. You actually want to use force on a girl who doesn't have the strength to truss a chicken. Liang Yin stomped on them angrily. Hua Jin and Qin Zhou watched silently from the side for a long time. Almost in unison, they asked, "Are you really so weak?" On the way back to the hotel, Qin Zhou started to lay down 3 rules with Hua Jin. Number 1, you're not allowed to stay out at night. Okay. Number 2, you're not allowed to go to nightclubs, bars, pubs, dance halls and other public places for entertainment. Got it. Number 3, you're not allowed to do this again. If it happens again, I'll deduct your year-end bonus. Ah. Hua Jin clung onto Qin Zhou's arm, feeling wronged. Don't, Boss Qin. I'm the victim here. I'm only doing this to protect myself. It's not a crime to defend oneself. Humph. Why don't you take a look at your status? It's the middle of the night and you're not resting in the hotel. Hua Jin, you're really something. Huh? Qin Zhou replied with an and glared at her. Hua Jin gulped nervously and mumbled timidly, "It won't happen again." Liang Yin watched from the side and was quite frightened by Qin Zhou's aura. This man seemed to be very scary. Qin Zhou turned around slowly and took a look at Liang Yin. He smiled gently, but there was an obvious coldness in his eyes. You'll stay in the hotel obediently from now on. Don't run around and memorize the script, okay? Liang Yin trembled and nodded obediently. Qin Zhou smiled and raised his hand to rub her head gently as if he was petting an obedient baby. Good girl. Good girl, good girl. She didn't know why, but when he touched her head, his movements were especially gentle and tender. Liang Yin's face inexplicably became hot, and her heart beat rapidly. She actually fell into this gentle gesture. She bit her lips and secretly looked at Qin Zhou from time to time. She felt that Qin Zhou was a reliable man. Although he gave people the impression that he was a little black-bellied, with him around, she felt an endless sense of security. No matter how big the problem was, she wouldn't feel afraid. She always felt that he was there to shoulder it, and she wasn't afraid at all. Ah, her maiden heart. Immersed, intoxicated, Hua Jin looked at Liang Yin, then at Qin Zhou. He furrowed his eyebrows, feeling. Liang Yin looked at Qin Zhou strangely. After returning to the hotel, Liang Yin returned to the sofa. She was still immersed in Qin Zhou's gentle gaze. The girl's heart was thumping. Hua Jin stood by the side with his arms crossed, looking at her coldly. Suddenly, he reminded her kindly, Qin Zhou has the same gentle gaze when he touches the puppy. Liang Yin reacted belatedly. She turned around and glanced at him. Are you talking to me? Aha. Hua Jin sat down opposite her. They were separated by a coffee table. He looked at her and said, Liang Yin, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to Qin Zhou. Who? Who said I've taken a fancy to him? Chapter 39:20. That's nonsense. Hua Jin snorted. With Qin Zhou's looks, it's not difficult for him to enter the entertainment industry. When he was young, he was also a young hunk. Young? Liang Yin caught this word and asked suspiciously, is he very old now? He should be in his 30s. 30s. Liang Yin was a little surprised. He looks about your age. That's because he's good at maintaining his looks. You don't know, but the skincare products at home are better than those of many female celebrities. In the past, when we were filming a show together, he would sit in front of the mirror every night before he went to bed. Practice? Aha, the eternal youth beauty technique. After bathing, he would apply it on his face. How can he not look young? Moreover, his facial features are younger. No matter how old he is, his face will still look the same. Liang Yin didn't quite understand what he was saying. She was not particular about maintaining her looks, so she was a little confused. Has he been in love before? Yes. Liang Yin was a little surprised. I thought he hasn't been in love before. Do you think he's an old virgin? How is that possible? For a man like him, there are plenty of women lining up for him. As long as he wants to, it's not an exaggeration to change a woman every day. Liang Yin was speechless again. She commented objectively, the rich circle is really messy. She had always thought that Qin Zhou was an old cadre who had never been in a relationship before. He was an ascetic man who had never fallen in love before. She did not expect that Qin Zhou had been in love before. But thinking about it, it made sense. After all, it was impossible for a man in his 30s not to have been in love before. Why? You're asking about him. Don't tell me you're really interested in him. Liang Yin denied flatly, don't think too much. I'm not thinking too much. Your face is too red. What do you mean? Liang Yin touched her face instinctively and glared at Hua Jin. Hua Jin crossed his arms calmly and gave her a meaningful look. Somehow, he felt that there was something fishy about this girl. Mr. Qin, I respect you as a person of character and have always given your artist's face. But, look at what your employees have done. In the office. Qin Zhou silently looked at the young man sitting on the sofa with half of his face swollen and shouting at him. The person in front of him was the son of Wushan Film and Television, Su Yue. Last night, he was beaten up by Hua Jin and even lost 2 of his teeth. It had to be said that Liang Yin's appearance was top-notch. In addition, Hua Jin had the habit of keeping a mistress at night. He always dragged Liang Yin to do skincare with him. Hua Jin's skincare products were all provided by advertisers. They were the best. Thus, in just a few days, Liang Yin's skin had been nourished to the point where it could be broken by blowing on it. Her skin had become supple and smooth. Even without makeup, she was still exceptionally beautiful. Su Yue had originally taken a liking to Liang Yin. But who would have thought that such a frail-looking person would be such a skilled fighter? In short, he was beaten up badly by Hua Jin. Yesterday, after Hua Jin and Liang Yin left with Qin Zhou, Su Yue and his buddies were sent to the hospital by the hotel's manager. Chapter 39-21. There were no serious injuries, but a few of his teeth had fallen out, and his lower jaw had loosened. Other than that, he had a slight concussion. The others' injuries were of varying severity. Only Su Yue's injuries were the most serious. The next day after Su Yue woke up, he rushed to Huanyu to demand an explanation. Tisk, Qin Zhou leaned lazily against the back of his chair with his legs propped up on the desk. The cigarette between his fingers was halfway burnt. He opened his eyes coldly and laughed contemptuously. Young Master Su, if word of this gets out, I'm afraid it won't be good for your reputation. Su Yue's face darkened when he heard that. What do you mean? Qin Zhou said slowly, you and your friends want to take turns with one of my artiste assistants. Don't you think your table manners are a little too ugly? Young Master Su, are you so desperate for women that you're not picky? You even want to touch one of my employees? If word of this gets out, those who don't know will think that young Master Su is desperate for women. Su Yue's face turned red, then green. When he caught sight of Qin Zhou's contemptuous gaze, his face darkened. He said angrily, she's just an assistant. Why, can't I touch her? Huanyu is so big and there are so many artistes under it. I just want an assistant. In this industry, I've never seen someone so inconsiderate. Who am I? Why, can't I touch her? Who does she think she is? Why doesn't she take a piss and take a good look at herself? How noble can she be? She's just an artiste assistant with a lowly status. She's not even worthy of my attention. Yes, she's just an assistant. Young Master Su, you're overestimating her. But the truth is, not only did young Master Su take a fancy to her, but your table manners are also extraordinarily ugly. After a pause, Qin Zhou said meaningfully, also, who said that the woman you touched was just an assistant in Huanyu? I remember someone reminded me that even a cleaner in Huanyu's headquarters could be related to the higher-ups. An assistant? Why, young Master Su, do you look down on assistants? Why? Could it be that this woman is your pet, CEO Qin? Qin Zhou smiled coldly. You can think of it that way for now. Anyway, you're not allowed to have any ideas about this woman in the future. Su Yue refused to admit it. Then what about yesterday's incident? Boss Qin, you have to give me an explanation. It doesn't matter if she's your woman or not. In short, that woman beat me and my brothers up so badly yesterday. Aren't you going to give me an explanation, President Qin? I'm more curious about one thing, Qin Zhou muttered with a puzzled expression. Why does young Master Su have so many people on his side? How can he be beaten up so easily by a girl? When I went in, people were lying on the ground. They were so young, but they couldn't even hold up against a girl. Could it be that they've been in the brothel for so long that their kidneys are weak? Boom! It had to be said that Qin Zhou was too two-faced. This seemingly unintentional sentence undoubtedly ignited a barrel of explosives. A man could be scolded as a bastard or a heartless and unscrupulous person, but the words kidney deficiency could not be scolded. Kidney deficiency. Didn't that imply that he couldn't do it? This was related to a man's dignity. Sure enough, Su Yue exploded at once. Chapter 39-22. Kidney deficiency? Qin Zhou, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to provoke me on purpose? Or is it that Huanyu doesn't care about Wushan because Wushan has been giving Huanyu face? Qin Zhou gradually lost his patience. He stood up abruptly, walked casually to Su Yue, and flicked the ash on him expressionlessly. First of all, Wushan Entertainment was never yours. The one who gave Huanyu face was your father, not you. You're just relying on your father's power to make a fool of yourself. Second of all, even if your father stepped into Huanyu, he would never dare to yell at me. No matter what Wushan's background is, he still has to give Huanyu face. You touched my people and I didn't hold it against you. How dare you come to Huanyu to make trouble for me? Qin Zhou's phoenix eyes narrowed as he grabbed Su Yue's collar. You should see if you're worthy. Su Yue's lips suddenly trembled. For the sake of his face, he wanted to refute a few words, but when he saw Qin Zhou's cold eyes, all of a sudden, no matter how angry he was, he suppressed his anger. This man, he had a terrifying aura about him. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows and his voice suddenly softened. Didn't your father tell you who you can mess with and who you can't? For example, me, Huanyu, and the Xingyu financial group behind Huanyu? Seeing that Su Yue was silent, Qin Zhou let go of him and said coldly, Young Master Su, please get lost. Huanyu doesn't welcome an insensible guest like you. Su Yue was furious. However, Qin Zhou had already spoken so harshly. Su Yue was also very clear that Qin Zhou had the capital that he couldn't provoke. Su Yue originally thought that if he came up to ask for an explanation, Qin Zhou would definitely push the assistant out to take responsibility or apologize. In short, it would be better for his reputation. As a man, especially a rich young master like him, what he cared about the most was his face. In the end, he didn't expect that Qin Zhou would be so protective of a lowly assistant. Not only did he lose face, but he was also ruthlessly criticized. Su Yue was rebuffed, so he left in a huff. Qin Zhou knew that this matter would not end so simply and carelessly. No one knew what Su Yue would do next. Ha 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 ha. At noon, during the dinner party, Hua Jin heard from Qin Zhou that Su Yue had left after being snubbed. He laughed so hard that he was out of breath. Ha 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 ha. This Su Yue is asking for trouble. Qin Zhou asked lightly, Are you done laughing? Hua Jin immediately stopped smiling. Pursing his lips, he chuckled and said, Let's eat. Let's eat. He was in a great mood. Liang Yin, who was sitting at the side, was a little worried. Do you think Su Yue will cause trouble for Huanyu again? Qin Zhou said disdainfully. First of all, he has to be able to afford it. At most, I'm worried that he'll come looking for trouble with me. Wushan Films and Television wouldn't dare to offend Huanyu. Only then did Liang Yin feel relieved. From time to time, she secretly sized up Qin Zhou. Originally, she was still worried about Su Yue, worried that Su Yue would come looking for trouble. Chapter 39-23. She hadn't expected Qin Zhou to remain silent and deal with the matter. She couldn't help but have a better impression of him. She felt that he was a very reliable man. Liang Yin lamented in her heart. When they returned to the hotel, Hua Jin turned around to find Liang Yin following him like a shadow. She blinked her eyes with a conflicted look on her face, as if she was contemplating something. Hua Jin was a little suspicious and asked, "What are you thinking about? Look at your face, why does it look so serious?" "Hua Jin, can I ask you a secret question?" "Okay, ask away." Hua Jin didn't wait for Liang Yin to speak and went straight to the point. "You must want to ask about Qin Zhou, right?" Liang Yin felt a little guilty and said unhappily, "Can you read minds?" "Why? Are you really interested in him?" Liang Yin blushed when she heard this and said awkwardly, "I just want to ask, what type of girl does Qin Zhou like?" "Not someone like you." Liang Yin was a little suspicious and said unwillingly, "How do you know that it's not someone like me?" "Why, are you really interested in him?" I didn't say that I was interested in him." Liang Yin pretended to be calm and said, "I'm just curious. Why doesn't he have a girlfriend even though he's already in his 30s? Is he picky about his girlfriend? If you want to talk about pickiness. Anyway, he likes someone with a voluptuous figure, but not too voluptuous. For example, someone with a big chest, a perky butt, a thin waist, a big face, big eyes, but not too big. In short, it's about being well-proportioned. Most importantly, they have to be good-looking. I think you're out of the game just based on your figure." Liang Yin didn't admit defeat when she heard this. A figure can be trained. Don't look down on people. Hua Jin was certain this time. "You want to pursue him?" Liang Yin was still a little hesitant. "I didn't say that I wanted to pursue him, although it's easy for a woman to chase a man, Qin Zhou isn't easy to chase." Why? What do you mean by that?" "He doesn't like to be passive, he likes to take the initiative. A strategist like him was used to taking the initiative in everything. He never liked to be passive. On the contrary, he doesn't like the feeling of being chased by women." "You don't like being chased by women?" In short, any woman he doesn't like is basically hopeless. As Hua Jin spoke, he patted Liang Yin's head sympathetically. "Don't think about him anymore. It's impossible between you and him. Furthermore," he paused and emphasized, "now, you're using my body. You want to use my body to chase after men. Have you asked for my opinion? Didn't you also use my body to seduce men? Have you asked for my opinion?" Liang Yin retorted, not to be outdone. "What? What do you mean I used your body to seduce men?" Hua Jin was so angry that his face turned green. "Did I use your body to attract bees and butterflies? Why not? Who was the one who caused Su You's incident yesterday?" When Hua Jin heard this, he was filled with anger. If this girl hadn't insisted on sitting at the bar counter, would this have happened to him? Also, Gong Jia. Hua Jin was a little confused. Chapter 39-24. Liang Yin got angry at the mention of this. She said angrily, "Don't think that I don't know that during those few days at the Mid-Mountain Hotel, you were sharing a bed with that man called Gong Jia. Did you ask for my opinion? How can that be called sharing a bed? Did you sleep on the same bed? Did you cover each other with a blanket? Although we shared a bed, each of us had a blanket. That's still called sharing a bed." Hua Jin was at a loss for words. "You use my body to share a bed, so why can't I use your body to flirt with other men?" "Ha! Hua Jin looked as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. If you use my body to flirt with other men, the prerequisite is that Qin Zhou must like men. If he doesn't like men, even if you strip naked and stand in front of him, he won't even look at you. He'll be indifferent the whole time. Liang Yin blushed as she glared at him. Suddenly, she smirked and asked meaningfully, "Who said that I'm going to flirt with Qin Zhou?" Hua Jin was stunned for a moment. What else? Although Qin Zhou likes women and there's nothing you can do about it, there are also many men who like you. Hey, Hua Jin, have you ever imagined that there would be a day where your body would be pressed down by another man? Hua Jin's eyes widened when he heard this. However, he pretended to be calm and said, you're just saying it. I don't think you'd dare to do it." "Who says that I don't dare to do it?" Liang Yin rubbed her chin and smiled. "I feel that Gong Jia is quite interested in you. How about I go and flirt with him?" Hua Jin suddenly became nervous. "You dare? You'll see if I dare to. Anyway, my sexual orientation is very normal. That Gong Jia looks very handsome, so it's not that difficult to do it. Anyway, I won't lose out if I use your body to flirt with him." "You?" Hua Jin was furious for a moment, but he immediately calmed down. "If you dare, why don't you show me your extraordinary courage?" With that, he proudly turned his face away and walked into the room. When Liang Yin saw Hua Jin enter his room, she turned around and returned to her own room. For the next 2 days, neither of them spoke. Actually, neither of them had done anything. However, Hua Jin's teasing tone made Liang Yin feel indignant. Liang Yin threatened Hua Jin, but Hua Jin didn't care. 2 days later, Liang Yin received a call from Yun Shishir, saying that she was going back to the Mu family for dinner. She didn't mention it to Hua Jin and took a taxi back to Mujia. Coincidentally, Gong Jia was also there. When Liang Yin saw that Gong Jia was there, she suddenly thought of a perfect plan. When Gong Jia saw Liang Yin, he narrowed his eyes suspiciously. When he saw that Yun Shishir wasn't looking in his direction, he went closer to Liang Yin and asked tentatively, "Liang Yin?" Liang Yin pretended to be calm and turned around. She cleared her throat and said, "I'm Hua Jin." Gong Jia asked, "You're back?" There was a look of surprise in his eyes. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. If it was that woman, she wouldn't have gone back to the Mu family alone. Wasn't she afraid that she would be exposed? "When did you change your identity?" Liang Yin casually made up a story. 3 days ago. Gong Jia didn't suspect anything when he heard it. Liang Yin twitched a few times before she finally mustered up her courage and said to Gong Jia, "I have a secret that I want to tell you." Chapter 39-25. Liang Yin glanced at him and finally made up her mind. She drew a seductive smile and leaned closer to him. Her breath smelled like orchids. "I think I've fallen in love with you." Gong Jia was speechless. Liang Yin tugged at the corner of his shirt and imitated Hua Jin's tone. She pretended to sound him out. "Don't you have feelings for me?" Gong Jia narrowed his eyes. "So you have an abnormal sexual orientation? Is liking men called having an abnormal sexual orientation?" Liang Yin said seriously, "In the past, I couldn't accept the fact that I liked men. But now, I've thought it through. Actually, I don't like all men. It's just that the person I like is of the same gender as me." Gong Jia narrowed his almond-shaped eyes. This Hua Jin, could it be that he was a masochist? Did he like him? Did he like being abused by him? Or, was he messing with him? Gong Jia was getting impatient. "What kind of trick are you trying to pull?" "I'm not trying to pull any tricks. I really have feelings for you." As Liang Yin spoke, she slowly inched closer to him. "Don't tell me you don't have feelings for me." Gong Jia grabbed her chin and said coldly, "If you dare to make fun of me again, I won't let you off." Liang Yin wasn't afraid of his gaze at all. Instead, she squinted her eyes and smiled. She mustered her courage, tiptoed slightly and pecked his chin lightly. This time, Gong Jia was even more stunned. He scrutinized Liang Yin in disbelief. The confusion in his eyes deepened. Today, I kissed that man. At night, in the hotel room, Hua Jin was helping Liang Yin to mark up her script. He was flipping through the script and eating strawberries with relish when he suddenly said this. At first, Hua Jin didn't react. He blinked and asked, "What do you mean?" That. Gong Jia. Today, I went back to the Mu family for dinner and confessed to him. Cough cough cough. Hua Jin was stunned for a long time before he suddenly coughed violently. He stood up in shock and stared at her with wide eyes. He said in disbelief, "Confess? What is the meaning of this?" Actually, it's not really a confession. Liang Yin pouted and explained, "Actually, I was just saying that I'm interested in him." Huh, I'm just kidding. Hearing that it was a joke, Hua Jin frowned. Thinking that Liang Yin wouldn't dare to mess around, he nervously sat back on the sofa. In the future, don't make such jokes, okay? With Gong Jia's personality, he will definitely take it seriously. Liang Yin pretended to be surprised. How did you know? Hua Jin. What was that supposed to mean? Liang Yin giggled. He really took it seriously and thought that you were interested in him. Hua Jin. Liang Yin looked at Hua Jin sitting on the sofa with a petrified look on his face. She was secretly amused. He deserved it. Who asked him to be so mean to her? Liang Yin had long realized that Hua Jin had an inexplicable fear of Gong Jia. However, this fear wasn't the traditional kind of fear. There was an inexplicable desire to escape. She also knew that Gong Jia was a little special to Hua Jin. Since he had always been mean to her, she didn't mind using a little trick to get back at him. Chapter 39-26. Since he had been speaking ill of her, she didn't mind using a little trick to get back at him. After more than 10 seconds, Hua Jin suddenly stood up, walked to the bar counter in the room, and started rummaging through the cabinets to look for something. Seeing him busy, Liang Yin asked curiously, "What's wrong?" "Looking for something." "Huh? What are you looking for?" "Looking for." Hua Jin turned around, and a fruit knife suddenly appeared in his hand. The chill almost blinded her eyes. Liang Yin's face was filled with horror. "What are you doing? Since you've ruined my innocence and reputation, I'll fight it out with you." Hua Jin held the knife and walked towards Liang Yin. Liang Yin curled up into a ball and immediately said, "Hey. I'm using your body now. Even if you want to die, you can't stab yourself." Hearing this, Hua Jin felt that it made sense. Hence, he rolled up his sleeves and gestured at his wrist, and raised the fruit knife high. Ah! Liang Yin panicked and immediately rushed up to grab his wrist, trembling in fear. "Hey, Hua Jin, are you crazy? I'll fight it out with you." "Ah, no. This is my hand. Calm down, calm down." "Liang Yin, what grudge do I have with you that you have to harm me like this?" "How am I harming you? I see that you two are so compatible, so I'm trying to matchmake you two." "Do you think you can matchmake just anyone? Don't you know that humans and demons have different paths? We're not on the same path." Liang Yin was stunned and confused. "What do you mean by humans and demons have different paths? Why don't I understand? I'm a human, he's a demon king, a great demon king, okay? Are you trying to kill me? I'm going to be killed by you. Anyway, if I'm killed, you won't have an easy time either. Now that we're on the same boat, aren't you happy to see me in trouble?" "Ah. Very happy. I think it's true love between you two. I'm doing this for your own good." "For my own good, right?" Hua Jin nodded and snorted coldly. Suddenly, he thought of something and his lips curled into an evil smile as he said sinisterly, "All right, since you said it's for my own good, then I appreciate your good intentions. But didn't you say that you like Qin Zhou?" Hua Jin thought it through, or rather, thought of a bad idea. He laughed evilly. "Liang Yin, just you wait, I'll help you chase after Qin Zhou." As he spoke, he stood up, snorted coldly, and left. Liang Yin was stunned at first. She watched as Hua Jin left the room, but she didn't react for a long time. Ming's city condominium. Qin Zhou had just finished his shower when he heard the doorbell ring. He walked to the door. When he opened it, he saw Hua Jin standing outside with a distressed look. Although he didn't say anything, his watery eyes were obviously saying, "Please take me in, please take me in." Qin Zhou frowned and crossed his arms as he blocked the doorway. He had no intention of letting him in. Why? Where did this stray dog come from? Hua Jin didn't have a tail. Otherwise, it would shake very hard. Qin Zhou, Hua Jin looked exhausted. "I'm feeling bitter, what's wrong now?" "Let me in first, what for?" Chapter 39-27. However, Qin Zhou had no sympathy for him and had no intention of taking him in. "Why did you come to stay with me when there's a hotel available?" "Humph. I don't want to stay in the same hotel as that woman. I get angry when I see her." "Oh, looks like the two of you are quarreling again." Qin Zhou looked at his watch and said coldly, "There's not much time left. If you don't want to stay in the hotel booked by the production team, you can get another room. Don't come to my place." Hua Jin mumbled, "But I didn't bring any money with me when I came out." When Qin Zhou heard this, he casually reached into his pocket from the clothes rack by the entryway cabinet. He pulled out a wallet and was about to give him some money when Qin Zhou stopped him. Hua Jin immediately said, "It's okay. You don't have to go through so much trouble. I'll just stay at your place for one night." Qin Zhou looked up and said in disgust, "I don't want to." Hua Jin complained, "Can you not give up treatment for your misophobia? What does that have to do with you? You're not friendly at all. As a friend, you can't be so cold." "Cold? Are we friends?" Hua Jin said, "If we're not friends, then what are we?" Qin Zhou said seriously, "Boss, subordinate." Hua Jin looked hurt. "All right, look at how pitiful you are. Come in." Qin Zhou made way for Hua Jin, who felt as if he had just been granted amnesty, to squeeze past him. When he entered the living room, he lay on the sofa and complained, "I don't want to serve that little ancestor. Do you know how hateful she is? She actually pretended to be me and confessed to Gong Jia." Pfft, Qin Zhou was holding a cup of coffee. When he heard this, he almost spilled the coffee in his hand. "She's so daring. Gong Jia was a big devil." Not to mention Hua Jin, even Qin Zhou didn't dare to be too presumptuous in front of him. Perhaps a newborn calf wasn't afraid of a tiger. Liang Yin had no idea what kind of background Gong Jia had, and she didn't know how frightening he was. Therefore, she had no respect for Gong Jia at all. Qin Zhou could not help but imagine a kitten reaching out its little paws to scratch the tiger. In comparison, it was quite cute. "Qin Zhou, let me ask you a serious question." Qin Zhou quickly put the coffee cup aside. "Ask away." Do you like men or women?" When Qin Zhou heard this, he did not get angry. Instead, he asked meaningfully, "What do you think?" "Judging from your temperament, you should like men." "Oh." Qin Zhou snorted slowly and said in a threatening tone, "I'll give you one more chance. Answer me again." "Women." Qin Zhou glared at him unhappily. "You already know the answer. I don't care about your personal life. How would I know if you like men or women?" Hua Jin rested his chin on his hand and said, "In the past, the media said that you and Gu Xingzhe were a couple." Qin Zhou reminded him coldly, "In the past, there were rumors that you and Yun Shishir were in an underground relationship." Hua Jin said, "It's fine if you say this in private. If you say this in front of brother-in-law Mu, he will definitely kill you and then me." Chapter 39-28. At the mention of Mu Yaja, Qin Zhou chuckled and shook his head. A married man can really change so quickly. In the past, Chairman Mu used to be a high-spirited young man, but after he got married, he suddenly became an old cadre. He would never step out of the house after 7 o'clock in the evening. He sleeps early and wakes up early. I heard from Shishir 2 days ago that he has started to focus on his health. Pfft, at his age, why would he need to maintain his health? He said that he wants to maintain his youthful appearance, live longer, and spend more time with his daughter. Hua Jin said in a daze, daughter slave. He's hopeless. He's the first daughter slave I've seen in history. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows and said, however, I think a daughter is better than a son. The little princess is so cute that even I like her. I can't help but want to hug her. If you like her, you can have one yourself. Qin Zhou, how many times have you been in love? Hua Jin asked in a roundabout manner. I can't remember. You can't remember? Because I don't spend much time on relationships, so I can't even remember how many women I've had. It's hard for you to maintain this state. You're an adult after all. Don't you have any emotional needs? Hua Jin was a little suspicious. Also, don't you have any physiological needs? You talk a lot of nonsense today. Qin Zhou asked calmly, say it. I want to see what your purpose is this time. Why don't you tell me your purpose? Someone is interested in you. I'm here to sound her out. There are so many people who are interested in me. Who are you referring to? A man or a woman? Not a man, and not a woman. A transvestite? Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows suspiciously. That's really high class. I can't believe I'm attracted to transvestites now. Ahem. She was a woman, and now she's a man. I don't know when she'll become a woman again. What do you think of this type? Qin Zhou heard this and finally looked at Hua Jin. He narrowed his eyes and looked a little strange. Hua Jin looked at him expectantly. Are you referring to Liang Yin? As expected of Qin Zhou. You guessed it right away. Hua Jin didn't want to keep him in suspense. He laughed and said, what do you think? You want to pimp me? This. How is this pimping? Hua Jin said gloomily, I'm only in charge of passing on the message. She likes you and has been gossiping about you. So, I simply came here to test your intentions. If you are interested in her, it's not a bad idea for the two of you to try it out. Even if you want to try dating, at least wait until the two of you have swapped bodies. Hua Jin, he bawled loudly, his face full of resentment. If we have to wait for both of our bodies to change back, who knows how long that will take? Do you think I'll be able to wait until our bodies are swapped back in my lifetime? That's not necessarily true. Qin Zhou smiled and said, who knows, maybe you'll be swapped back in an instant. Who knows, maybe you'll be like this for the rest of your life. Hua Jin covered his face in despair. Just thinking about it, if he were to become a woman, he would have to go through menstruation for the rest of his life. He might even have to go through childbirth and menopause. Chapter 39-29. Qin Zhou seemed to have read his mind and said slowly, actually, a woman's menstrual cycle won't last forever. According to research, menstruation stops at a certain age. From then on, a woman will officially enter old age and won't be troubled by menstruation anymore. Hua Jin rolled his eyes. Can you read minds? Qin Zhou ignored him and walked past him to the bar. He poured himself 2 glasses of champagne, turned around, and said gloatingly, however, I heard that childbirth is very painful for women. Generally, pain is divided into 10 levels. The pain of childbirth is defined as one of the 10 levels. The roots of Hua Jin's teeth began to chatter. I don't want to have a child. When the time comes, it won't be up to you. It's said that only a woman who has given birth is considered complete. Be strong. Qin Zhou, you said that childbirth is the most painful for women. Then, is it more painful to have your testicles broken or to have a child? Hua Jin had turned into a curious child. Qin Zhou hesitated for a long time. I think it's more painful for a man to have his testicles broken. After all, if his testicles are broken, he might even lose his life. That makes sense. However, giving birth is a pain that women have to go through, but breaking their testicles isn't. Hua Jin was speechless. Anyway, don't be so pessimistic. Maybe tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you'll find that you've changed back to your original self. Hua Jin's lips twitched. If it's really as easy as you say, then it'll be great. What if you change back? Nothing is absolute. Hua Jin said coldly, if I wake up tomorrow morning and find that I've really become myself, I'll be so happy that I'll run around naked. Qin Zhou smirked. Sure. If you run around naked, remember to take a picture and post it on Weibo. I've already shared it for you. Ha ha ha. Hua Jin stood up and walked to the bathroom. It's getting late. I'll take a shower and then go to bed. You really want to stay here? Qin Zhou reminded him kindly. This is a single apartment. There's only one bed. Are you sure you want to sleep with me? Why? Is there a problem? I don't like you. Besides, I don't have any women's clothes here. It's okay, I'll wear a bathrobe to sleep. With that, Hua Jin added, I'm not that pretentious. We're both men. Do you think I'm worried that you'll do something to me? With that, he went into the bathroom and closed the door. Qin Zhou drank the champagne in his hand and leaned lazily on the sofa. After Hua Jin left, Liang Yin could not reach him on the phone. She went next door and listened through the door. The ringtone came from inside the room. Could it be that he ran out alone and didn't bring his phone? This fellow, in the middle of the night, could he be in any danger? Forget it. Who cares? Liang Yin did not care where he went. She went back to her room and memorized the script seriously. Then, she went to bed. However, when he woke up the next day, he could clearly feel someone lying beside him. The reason why she felt that there was someone else was because when she turned over, her arm had clearly touched a slightly warm skin. She woke up in shock and opened her eyes. However, the scene in front of her almost made her heart stop. Chapter 39:30. There was a person lying beside her. A man. This man's facial features were not unfamiliar. QQQQQZhou. She was so frightened that she stuttered. However, the moment her voice came out of her mouth, she realized that the voice she made was her original voice. She widened her eyes and covered her mouth. She was so frightened that she trembled and froze. What the F***CK, what happened to Fei Si? She changed back? Liang Yin had a horrified look on her face as she lightly patted her face. Pa, the real touch and the crisp sound immediately pulled her back to reality. Liang Yin gently lifted up her lapel and peeked through her collar. Only then did she realize, she didn't wear inside clothes. She was naked inside. Other than the bathrobe, there was nothing else to cover her. Liang Yin immediately covered the bathrobe tightly. Her mind started to wander. Could it be, she and Hua Jin had already been swapped back, right? Then? After Hua Jin ran out last night, he came to Qin Zhou's house and used her body to sleep with Qin Zhou? When she thought of this possibility, Liang Yin's expression suddenly became unfathomable. It couldn't be. Hua Jin used her body to sleep with Qin Zhou? Slept with Qin Zhou. Liang Yin lifted her eyes again and looked at Qin Zhou's face. She saw that Qin Zhou's eyelids were slightly lowered as he slept. His soft eyelashes, thick, and handsome features, even though he was still asleep, he still looked very handsome and charming, but that was not the main point. The two of them slept like that for the whole night? Liang Yin couldn't tell if she slept with Qin Zhou or not. She also didn't know what happened between the two of them last night. She didn't have any experience, so she couldn't tell if there were any changes to the body if something happened between a man and a woman. Liang Yin carefully sat up and glanced down. There wasn't any blood stains on her body. Oh, her movements seemed to be too loud, and it immediately alarmed Qin Zhou, who was beside her. When Qin Zhou turned around, Liang Yin was so scared that she immediately lay down obediently, on the other side. Hua Jin also woke up. When he woke up, he found that he was in a hotel booked by the crew. He frowned, sat up, and looked around. Immediately, a bunch of question marks appeared. What's going on? How did he woke up here? Where's Qin Zhou? Wasn't he at Qin Zhou's apartment yesterday? After taking a shower, she put on Qin Zhou's bathrobe and shamelessly crawled into Qin Zhou's bed. Just like that, she fell asleep. Why was she here when she woke up? Sleepwalking? Hua Jin muttered to himself in confusion. Only after a while did he realize that it was him who had made the sound. His eyes widened to the maximum. Him. Could he have changed back? Hua Jin immediately kicked the blanket away, lifted the bathrobe, and looked down at his lower body. He had changed back. It was a pleasant surprise that he had regained something he had lost. Hua Jin was so emotional that tears streamed down his face. He hugged his body tightly and jumped off the bed. I've changed back. I've finally changed back. I thought that I would become a woman for the rest of my life. Qin Zhou was right. The moment he woke up, he had returned to his original body. Could he be the legendary prophet? Chapter 39-31. Ha 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 ha. Hua Jin was so happy that he almost went crazy. He jumped off the bed, shook his butt and smacked it proudly. This feeling was so familiar. How nostalgic. Hua Jin rushed to the bathroom until that familiar and handsome face was reflected in the mirror again. He rubbed his face. That real feeling reminded him repeatedly. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a dream. This was real. He was so happy that he cried. Then, Hua Jin touched his body from head to toe. There was a sense of excitement that came from regaining what he had lost. In order to prove once again that this wasn't a dream, Hua Jin gave himself another hard slap. The burning pain made him even more excited. This wasn't a dream. This time, Qin Zhou really hit the mark. Hua Jin happily took a bath and lay down in the bathtub, enjoying a moment of peace and tranquility. He hadn't enjoyed it so much in a long time. This was because ever since he had become Liang Yin had made it clear that he wasn't allowed to take baths. This was because it wasn't hygienic enough for a girl. Hua Jin loved to take baths. Hence, it was inevitable that he would be ordered to take a bath. As a result, he could only stand in the shower. Sometimes, after filming, taking a bath would make him feel more relaxed. At the same time, on the other side, Liang Yin felt that the days were passing like years. It wasn't the days that felt like years, it was the seconds that felt like years. It was too torturous. She lay upright on the bed with her eyes wide open. She didn't dare to close them for fear that there would be any movement around her. Hence, she just stared at the ceiling and entered a meditative state, not moving at all. She didn't know when Qin Zhou would wake up. Or was she going to sleep for the whole day? Should she get out of bed first, put on her clothes and then leave? As Liang Yin thought this, she mulled over it for a while. Finally, she mustered her courage and sat up slowly. As she moved, she kept an eye on Qin Zhou beside her. As she lifted the blanket, she carefully revealed a section of her calf. Qin Zhou suddenly turned over and his eyelids moved. Then. He's actually awake. Liang Yin was dumbfounded. Qin Zhou turned around just in time to see Liang Yin sitting up. The latter subconsciously tightened her bathrobe around her and pretended to be calm. She planned to pretend that she was still Hua Jin and that she had not switched roles yet. He's awake? Qin Zhou raised his arm and rested his head on it. He raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled. Why don't you sleep a little longer? Liang Yin subconsciously tightened her bathrobe and said awkwardly, Oh. I am already awake. Noticing that she was a little shy, Qin Zhou keenly furrowed his brows and was a little suspicious. Hua Jin was not like that. Although Hua Jin was wearing a bathrobe without any protective measures inside, when he was lying on the same bed as him, he was still carefree and didn't seem to mind at all. On the other hand, Liang Yin in front of him was acting shy but pretending to be calm. With just one look, Qin Zhou was a little suspicious. She was Liang Yin and not Hua Jin. After being in the entertainment industry for so many years, there were ups and downs. What kind of world had he not seen and what kind of people had he not met? He had long cultivated a smooth and slick mind, especially his eyes, which were very sharp. He was also quite good at judging people. Chapter 39-32. After being in the entertainment industry for so many years, he had experienced all kinds of ups and downs. He had seen all kinds of people and had long trained himself to be smooth and slick in dealing with people. He was also very good at reading people. Back then, when Hua Jin told him about this, he was skeptical. He believed it because he had a sharp eye for people and could clearly feel that Hua Jin was different. He was skeptical because this matter didn't make sense. It wasn't something that could be explained with the knowledge that he had accumulated over the years. But now, Liang Yin gave him an obvious feeling that something wasn't right. If it were Hua Jin, he definitely wouldn't have reacted this way. Qin Zhou was a little suspicious and called out tentatively, "Hua Jin?" Liang Yin froze for a few seconds before she reacted. She turned around and smiled. Instinctively, she ran her fingers through her hair. "Yes?" Qin Zhou frowned when he saw her running her fingers through her hair. Only girls would run their fingers through their hair. Usually, girls cared more about their appearance than men, especially their hairstyles. Although some men were more shameless, at least when it came to Hua Jin, he would never do such a thing. Thus, Qin Zhou became more suspicious. Could it be that Hua Jin and Liang Yin had swapped identities? However, Qin Zhou naturally wouldn't ask directly. Instead, he leaned back and deliberately asked some irrelevant questions. "How do you feel?" "Yes?" "Yesterday, you cried for a long time. Did I hurt you?" Liang Yin didn't quite understand at first. However, when she repeatedly thought about Qin Zhou's words, her heart suddenly started to race. Hurt. Cried for a long time. What the hell was going on? Actually, Liang Yin hadn't reacted yet. She was a little suspicious about what had happened between her and Qin Zhou yesterday. Her thoughts were already in that direction. Now that Qin Zhou had pointed it out, she started to become more suspicious. Actually, as long as one was a little smarter, they would be able to see through Qin Zhou's probing. First of all, it was Hua Jin who was lying beside Qin Zhou last night. No matter what happened, Hua Jin would never accept another man. Moreover, even if something really happened, Hua Jin was a man. Would he cry like a woman? Secondly, Qin Zhou knew that it was Hua Jin in his body. As a man, no matter how beastly he was, he wouldn't make an example out of Hua Jin. However, Liang Yin was too nervous. She was too concerned about what had happened last night. She was too concerned about it. In fact, after Hua Jin went to bed yesterday, Qin Zhou went to bed. By the time he lay down, Hua Jin had already fallen asleep. Initially, Qin Zhou wanted to get another blanket. However, after tossing and turning, the blanket was too thin. After all, he lived alone and didn't pay much attention to it. The heater was also on in the room. Therefore, he fell asleep just like that. He knew to be careful and avoid it. Hua Jin didn't avoid it at all. He didn't even tie the knot of his bathrobe tightly. It was a little loose, so Qin Zhou slept with his back facing him. Although he knew that it was Hua Jin, he was a man after all. He had some guts. Moreover, Liang Yin was also very beautiful. It was hard not to be tempted by her lying beside him. Out of sight, out of mind. Hence, with that thought in mind, he decided to sleep with his back facing Hua Jin. Chapter 39-33. That night, Qin Zhou prided himself on being a gentleman. He remained calm and unruffled Hua Jin's arms around his waist. It was said that if something happened between a man and a woman in bed, the man would be a beast. But if nothing happened, the man would be worse than a beast. Of course, Qin Zhou would be the latter. Nothing happened, but Qin Zhou saw obvious guilt and awkwardness on Liang Yin's face. At this point, he started to wonder if the two of them had been swapped. Then again, he probed with his suspicions. In the end, Liang Yin let the cat out of the bag. Qin Zhou didn't expose her. To avoid embarrassment. Girls were most particular about their reputation. If he told Liang Yin that he knew she was Liang Yin, then Liang Yin would definitely feel awkward. Qin Zhou pretended not to know. He smiled and said, "I'm just teasing you." "Ah." Liang Yin muttered, "Teasing me? Last night, nothing happened between us?" Qin Zhou leaned against the headboard and asked curiously, "Do you want something to happen between us?" Liang Yin cleared her throat, her face flushed red from holding back her laughter. "Of course. I don't." Moreover, Qin Zhou crossed his arms and asked curiously, "If something really happened, wouldn't you feel it?" Liang Yin said innocently, "Why would I feel it? Moreover, I don't know how I would feel if something happened." Qin Zhou smiled and didn't say anything. Instead, he got off the bed. As he buttoned up his shirt, he said, "All right, have your breakfast and go home." If Hua Jin had heard Qin Zhou say that, he would have asked sarcastically, "Why are you in such a hurry to chase me away?" But now, Liang Yin nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Oh. I got it." Liang Yin went into the bathroom, washed her face and brushed her teeth. When she came out, she took her clothes from the clothes rack. Although she didn't like the fact that she didn't have a change of clothes, however, it was better than running around naked. Hua Jin. Liang Yin gnashed her teeth in anger. He would settle the score with this fellow when he got back. After putting on her clothes, Liang Yin walked out of the bedroom and heard the sizzling sound of oil coming from the kitchen. The apartment was a bachelor apartment. The kitchen was semi-open and there was a bar counter. Qin Zhou was wearing an apron. There was a frying pan on the induction cooker. Ding! 4 pieces of toast popped out of the toaster stove beside it. "Take a seat." Qin Zhou's hearing was amazing. Even though his back was facing Liang Yin, he knew that she was walking over. Liang Yin sat down in front of the counter in a daze. After a while, Qin Zhou turned around and placed a tray in front of her. He gave her 3 bottles of jam, blueberry jam, condensed milk, and peanut butter. "I don't know what flavor you like, but these 3 flavors are my favorite." As Qin Zhou said this, he placed the 4 pieces of toast on her tray and pushed a glass of warm milk in front of her. Holding the frying pan, he carefully placed the sweetened poached eggs on the tray. Liang Yin was flattered. "I have breakfast the moment I wake up." "Just nice, I'm hungry." "I have 2 slices of bread, a poached egg, and a bottle of milk every day." Qin Zhou also prepared his portion and sat in front of the counter, facing Liang Yin. "Do you need anything else?" Chapter 39-34. Actually, I didn't have the habit of eating breakfast in the past. But there was a period of time when my stomach wasn't feeling well, so I just ate it carelessly every day. Not carelessly at all. Liang Yin immediately said, "I think this breakfast is very exquisite." Exquisite? It's all done casually. It's already very exquisite. At least, I can't make this kind of poached egg. Liang Yin liked the sweet poached egg very much. The soft yolk was easy to poke, and coupled with the fragrant white, she didn't have such skills. "But, how did you make such a heart-shaped shape?" Qin Zhou looked at her as if she was an idiot. "There's a special grinding tool." Oh. Liang Yin also realized that her question was too stupid. She knocked her head in annoyance and looked around curiously as she ate her toast. Seeing that there was an oven in the kitchen, she asked in surprise, "You know how to use an oven?" "Yeah. When I'm bored, I like to think about baking." "You know how to bake?" Liang Yin was even more surprised. "You're really a good family man." Qin Zhou smiled. "A necessary skill for a single man. Because I don't have a girlfriend, I have to do everything myself." Liang Yin didn't know why, but her face blushed again and she lowered her head shyly. She felt a little embarrassed. She actually liked Qin Zhou quite a lot. It was just that she didn't seem to be a qualified girlfriend. In terms of cooking, she didn't seem to have any talent. Even the most basic instant noodles would be boiled dry sometimes. Even if she really became Qin Zhou's girlfriend, she would probably be despised. She only knew how to do the housework, but she didn't know how to cook, yeah. She decided. She wanted to learn how to cook. There was a saying that went, to capture a man's heart, you must capture his stomach. Liang Yin made up her mind. She looked up, intending to ask for more information. Do you have an ideal type? Qin Zhou looked up, looked at her deeply, and said meaningfully, we're all men, so our ideal type should be roughly the same. I don't understand. Everyone's aesthetic and ideal type is different. Black hair, waist length, beautiful, big breasts, perky butt, nothing more. When Liang Yin heard that she wanted a big boob, she said sourly, I heard that women with big boobs are more brainless. It's okay. My woman doesn't need brains. It's best if she's pretty, sweet, and lovable. As long as she's as beautiful as a flower, I'll take care of her. With Qin Zhou's words, Liang Yin felt that she had no chance. She instinctively lowered her head and glanced at her own, C. C can't be considered big. It could only be considered normal. Shallow. Liang Yin complained. Qin Zhou smiled and smeared the toast with blueberry jam. Then, he curled his lips meaningfully. Men are all superficial. Liang Yin, Qin Zhou paused for a moment before continuing, however, if you're particularly outstanding in other aspects, even if you don't have a devilish figure, it's not impossible to make an exception for you. For example, the kind that knows how to act coquettishly. Acting coquettishly? Liang Yin was a little surprised. You like girls who act coquettishly? Girls who act coquettishly are the cutest. I don't like girls who act coquettishly. Chapter 39-35. Liang Yin licked her lips but did not say anything. She touched her cheeks, as if she did not know how to act coquettishly. Qin Zhou took the last bite of his toast and glanced at her. He rubbed his fingers to clean the bread crumbs on them. Do you still want milk? Okay. A cup of warm milk in the morning is better for the stomach. Liang Yin stared blankly at Qin Zhou as he stood up. For a moment, she could not shift her gaze away. Hiss! In front of the mirror, Hua Jin picked up the mousse and sprayed it on his blow-dried hair. He carefully combed and styled his hair. He wrapped a towel around his waist. As he combed and styled his hair, he noticed from the corner of his eye that his chest muscles had shrunk a little. Tisk! It had only been a while, but Liang Yin did not pay attention to training. Even her chest muscles had shrunk a little. Good. Heart. Pain. Damn it, he had trained for so long to develop such poor chest muscles, but it had caused Liang Yin to lose them. How infuriating. Hua Jin pinched his chest, feeling a little dispirited. It's okay. Since it's back now, I'll start training again later. Hua Jin touched his chest again and checked his abdominal muscles. Fortunately, his abdominal muscles did not shrink. He was extremely lucky. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Hua Jin poked his head out and looked in the direction of the door. Could it be that Liang Yin had returned? He walked to the door and looked through the peephole. He almost suffocated when he saw who it was. Gong. He had just uttered a word when he covered his mouth tightly. Gong Jie? Why is it him? What is he doing here? Hua Jin leaned on the door again and peeked through the peephole, only to see Gong Jie staring fixedly at the peephole. It was as if the man could see him through the peephole. For a moment, he felt that he had nowhere to hide. He had to pretend that he was not here. Hua Jin turned around and tiptoed back to the living room, pretending that he was not here. Bang! A loud sound was heard. Gong Jie kicked the door hard. Open the door. Hua Jin shuddered violently, and his shoulders shrunk subconsciously. He clenched his fists in grief and indignation. Outside the door, Gong Jia said lazily, "Hua Jin, I know you're inside." How did he know? Could it be that he had X-ray vision? Hua Jin turned around suspiciously and bit his lip nervously. This Liang Yin. This pig of a teammate. Did she really confess to Gong Jia? Hua Jin had always felt that Liang Yin must be joking with him. If it was a joke, why did the Gong Jia come to the hotel? Open the door. Gong Jia said again, "I'm warning you, my patience is limited." Hua Jin was flustered. He wanted to go back to the living room to get his coat and put it on, but no matter how hard he searched, he could not find where Liang Yin had left it. Gong Jia kicked the door again, looking like he was about to break in. He ran his fingers through his hair, walked to the door, and took a deep breath. Only then did he muster up the courage to open the door. Then, with a smile that he thought was extremely bright and friendly, he looked at the man outside the door. "Master Jia." The brighter Hua Jin's smile was, the darker Gong Jia's face became. Outside the door, Gong Jia looked Hua Jin up and down. He was half naked with a towel wrapped around his waist. His hair was carefully combed, and the smile on his face was as fake as it could be. Chapter 39-36. No. I didn't. Then why did you wake up so late? Hua Jin immediately yawned and pretended to be sleepy. I guess I just woke up. He was halfway through his sentence when Gong Jia narrowed his eyes at his meticulously combed hairstyle. Then, he glanced at the sleepy expression on his face. Gong Jia's thin lips curled up coldly. Obviously, he didn't think that his reason was convincing. "Do you know how to sleepwalk?" "I haven't woken up yet. I've already combed my hair." Gong Jia raised his eyebrows at the man's embarrassed expression and said calmly, "Say it. What's the matter?" "What the hell?" Hua Jin was a little frustrated. Gong Jia came to his hotel early in the morning and gave him a big surprise. In the end, he asked him what was the matter. Hua Jin was angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. He still smiled and said, "Nothing much." "Why would I look for you?" "Nothing much. You asked me to meet you at the hotel?" Gong Jia was getting more suspicious. Hua Jin was shocked and stunned when he heard this. What? He asked him to meet him at the hotel? When did this happen? Could it be, Liang Yin asked him to meet her? This guy, Gong Jia had been observing his expression. Initially, he was still wondering if the person who provoked him at the Mu residence yesterday was Hua Jin or Liang Yin. He thought that if it was Hua Jin, he would never dare to tease him. What kind of guts does Hua Jin have to make fun of me? However, Gong Jia was now completely sure that the person who was spouting nonsense at the Mu residence yesterday was Hua Jin. Their identities had been swapped long ago. At the thought of this, Gong Jia's lips curled into a cold smirk as he walked into the room. Locking his gaze on Hua Jin, he closed the door behind him. With a click, the door locked automatically. Hua Jin was still feeling humiliated from being betrayed by Liang Yin. When he heard the door, he immediately looked up and saw that Gong Jia had actually stepped into the room. The door behind him was already closed. Hua Jin looked at Gong Jia and then at the door. He instinctively took a few steps back. He wanted to laugh, but the laugh that came out was uglier than crying. Master Jia, what are you doing? Hua Jin immediately moved aside. Since you're here, have a seat. As he spoke, he turned around and walked towards the living room like a deserter. He poured tea and water in a flurry. Gong Jia crossed his arms and calmly observed his brother's every move before he suddenly blurted out, "I've thought it through." Huh? Hua Jin raised his head with a puzzled expression. What do you mean? Didn't you say yesterday that you have feelings for me? Gong Jia looked serious. Why don't we try to get along? Everywhere. Hua Jin was so frightened that he almost bit his tongue in his stutter. He looked embarrassed. What do you mean by that? Were you serious about what you said yesterday? Gong Jie's tone suddenly became extremely stern. Are you toying with me? No, no. No. How would I dare to toying with you? Gong Jie said, then you're serious. Hua Jin was speechless. He chose to play dead. Don't play dead. Gong Jie harumphed coldly. He walked straight to the sofa and sat down. Patting his thigh, he said, come here. Chapter 39-37. Was this the rhythm of letting him sit on his lap? Even if he really wanted to do something, wasn't this rhythm a little too fast? Hua Jin was a little confused by Gong Jie's words. I told you to come over. Oh, Hua Jin did not dare to go against his wishes. He walked over fearfully and sat upright on Gong Jie's lap. He felt that the chill from the iceberg behind him was getting more obvious. Did I ask you to sit on my lap? Hua Jin was so scared that he shivered, but he wanted to cry but had no tears. Weren't you the one who slapped your thigh and asked me to sit? Wasn't that what you meant? Even if you were summoning a dog, you couldn't just give out commands. He shuddered in fright and subconsciously tried to shift his butt onto the sofa. Gong Jie, however, gripped his waist in displeasure, and he could no longer move. Gong Jie leaned close to his ear and whispered, Are you that impatient? His charming breath brushed against his face, as if countless cat claws were scratching him, itchy and hot. Hua Jin was a little depressed. What do you mean impatient? What else? Gong Jie asked calmly, why else would you sit on my lap so intimately? Why, are you playing hard to get, and now you want to seduce me? When Hua Jin heard this, he flew into a rage out of humiliation, but he did not flare up. He held back his anger and said indifferently, if you're really such an upright person, how could I seduce you? Unless you like men too. That's impossible. Why is it impossible? Gong Jie raised his eyebrows and gently pinched his face. How do you know that I'm not interested in men? Maybe it's just like what you said, I haven't fully developed it. Maybe what you said yesterday has developed me. This action was so intimate that Hua Jin was instantly like a frightened cat, his hair standing on end. You. What do you mean? Didn't you say yesterday that you like me not because you like men but because the person you like is a man? Gong Jie hugged Hua Jin's waist affectionately. Didn't you say yesterday that you like me not because you like men but because the person you like is a man? Did he say that? It must have been Liang Yin again. Hua Jin's face darkened even more. Once again, he deeply experienced what it meant by extreme joy begets sorrow. Actually, I didn't say those words yesterday. Do you believe me? As Hua Jin spoke, he looked at Gong Jie with a sincere expression. But he saw Gong Jie staring at him coldly. Hua Jin, all right then. Forget it if you don't believe me. Hua Jin said angrily, anyway, I didn't say those things. Liang Yin said those things to you on purpose to get back at me. I'm innocent. I've always found it strange. What's strange? Tell me, what kind of man would make another man blush? Unless there's something wrong with it. Gong Jie came to this conclusion. Hua Jin was speechless. There's nothing to be afraid of admitting that you like a man. When Hua Jin heard that, he was even more speechless. He stood up angrily and said, anyway, you won't believe me no matter what I say. It's superfluous to explain. Hua Jin was about to leave, but Gong Jie held on tightly to his waist. Hey! Let go. Chapter 39-38. This scene frightened Hua Jin quite a bit. Gong Jie did not put all his weight on him. However, when Hua Jin's gaze fell on his face, it was as if his cold eyes were going to burn through his face. Hua Jin was about to speak when he heard a beep. The door opened. Liang Yin swiped the room card and walked into the living room. However, when she stepped into the living room, she saw the scene on the sofa. She was instantly dumbfounded. What? What was going on? She was caught off guard and saw such a scene. Hua Jin was also stunned. He did not expect that Liang Yin would come back at this time. She had the room card with her, but she did not expect that Liang Yin would come back at this time. He was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he immediately became unusually angry. Liang Yin. He yelled at her sternly. Liang Yin instantly felt that things were not going well. In a short period of time, she immediately regained her train of thought. Yesterday at the Mu residence, she had arranged to meet Gong Jia at the hotel. She had said that she had something important to discuss with him. Initially, she had wanted to use this opportunity to intimidate Hua Jin. She did not expect that Gong Jia would really come back. In the end, she did not expect that Gong Jia seemed to take it seriously. Liang Yin shrunk her shoulders and immediately turned around, wanting to escape. Gong Jia turned around and looked at Hua Jin, who was struggling to get up. Liang Yin, you're not allowed to leave. Come back and explain everything to me. Before he could finish his sentence, Liang Yin opened the door and slipped out. She did not forget to close the door behind her. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The door was shut. Hua Jin's face became even more distorted. This Liang Yin was a fraud. A fraud. He wanted to strangle her to death. Gong Jia looked at Hua Jin's reaction and then looked at Liang Yin's guilty look. He was not stupid. Since he was the leader of Hurricane and had outstanding IQ, he naturally figured out what was going on. It seemed that the person who had confessed to him yesterday was really Liang Yin. Maybe this was a prank aimed at Hua Jin. However, even though he had figured out the whole story, he did not show any signs of understanding. Hua Jin looked at Gong Jia and immediately explained seriously, the person who had confessed to you yesterday was really not me. Gong Jia remained silent. His eyes, which were as deep as an ancient pond, were devoid of any ripples. Hua Jin felt a little hopeless. Gong was so smart that he could not figure out what was going on. He had already explained it this way. If he still did not understand, then Hua Jin really did not know how to explain it. Ah, how infuriating. Gong Jia smirked and lowered his head. The tip of his nose was almost touching Hua Jin's nose. The distance between the two of them was closer than ever. He even felt that the air he breathed in was coming from between his lips and the tip of his nose. I'll let you off this time. Gong Jia let go of him and sat up slowly. Hua Jin saw him get up and did not dare to let his guard down. He stood up warily and looked very guarded. Gong Jia did not care about his vigilance. He stood up and walked towards the door. It was only after Gong Jia left the room that Hua Jin heaved a sigh of relief, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Pervert. Liang Yin went back to her room. She was restless. She stood up for a while and then paced back and forth. The doorbell suddenly rang. Chapter 39:39. Liang Yin was shocked, but she knew that Hua Jin must have come looking for her. She would have to face him sooner or later. Liang Yin clenched her fists and walked to the door. She opened the door with fear and trepidation, only to see Hua Jin standing at the door, glaring at her. The anger on his face was scarier than ever. Liang Yin. Here. Liang Yin stood at attention. Then, like a country bumpkin, she respectfully welcomed him into the room. Boss, don't be angry. This isn't. I was just kidding, but I didn't think that the joke would get out of hand. Hua Jin questioned, you had a date with Gong Jia yesterday? Liang Yin didn't dare to hide anything and nodded reluctantly. You were the one who asked him to meet at the hotel? Yeah, Liang Yin hurriedly explained, I really didn't think that he would come. What else did you do behind my back? I didn't do anything. Humph. Scam. Stupid teammate, how can you scam me like this? Hua Jin snorted angrily. However, when Liang Yin came back to her senses, she straightened her back. It was obvious that she had thought of something after hearing what he said. Suddenly, her anger flared up and she grabbed him by the collar. It was said that women changed their faces faster than flipping the pages of a book. Even Hua Jin didn't think that Liang Yin would change her face so suddenly. You're still talking about me? What about you? How did you scam me? Where did you go last night? When Hua Jin heard this, he understood what was going on. He turned his face away guiltily and didn't want to look at him anymore. I was just joking, and it didn't cause you any harm. What about you? You actually went to Qin Zhou's place last night? Hua Jin retorted stubbornly, is there a problem? He didn't think that there was a problem. Men's brain circuits were usually bigger, but women were more sensitive and delicate. Hua Jin didn't think there was anything wrong with sleeping in the same bed as Qin Zhou. He even asked, how does it feel to wake up with your idol? What do you mean? Give me back my reputation. Hua Jin argued, it's just sleeping in the same bed. What's wrong with that? How is it a matter of reputation? Liang Yin sneered, ha. What was the problem? How did you guys sleep last night? Just like in the past. Hua Jin replied in all seriousness. After I took a shower, I slept at his place. Heh. Not only that, right? You even shared a bed with him. If it weren't for the two of us swapping places today, I wouldn't even know that you're ruining my body like this. Liang Yin was obviously very angry. Hua Jin, on the other hand, was full of righteousness. How is this a waste? I haven't been in a relationship yet, and I'm randomly sharing a bed with a man. Don't you think it's ridiculous? What do you mean by ridiculous? Hua Jin harumphed and purposely teased, don't you have a crush on him? Aren't I creating an opportunity for you guys? Ha. Liang Yin was even angrier when she heard this. She was so angry that she laughed, is this how you create opportunities? Your so-called opportunity is to create an opportunity to share a bed. Also, you're only wearing a bathrobe? Because I didn't bring a change of clothes. But you can't sleep with him. Chapter 39-40. What's done can't be undone. Liang Yin was completely horrified. This Hua Jin actually dared to have such an idea. Oh, I see. Then you're really doing it for my own good. Then why didn't you and Gong Jia do it? Pounce on him? Speaking of which, when I opened the door just now, I found you and Gong Jia on the bed. Did I interrupt your progress? It would have been better if she hadn't mentioned this. The moment she did, Hua Jin was instantly enraged. You still dare to talk about it? Let me ask you, why did you ask Gong Jia out at the hotel? What's your motive? Liang Yin cleared her throat and then imitated Hua Jin's teasing tone. She said lightly, what's done can't be undone. What's done can't be undone. Hua Jin reached out his finger and poked her forehead angrily. What's done can only be done between men and women. Do you know that you're pushing me into a sea of fire? Why would I harm you? Liang Yin pretended to be kind and said, no way, I see that you like him. How can you tell that I like him? If you don't like him, Liang Yin paused and raised her eyebrows. Then why do you look shy? Shy? How can you tell that I'm shy? You can't hide your shy expression. Hua Jin, if you really don't like him, you wouldn't have such an attitude. You're so timid. Even if you like a man, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Liang Yin's words undoubtedly stunned Hua Jin. He was still stubborn. I don't have any feelings for him at all. That's just what you think. Liang Yin asked again, you haven't made it clear. Did anything happen between you and Qin Zhou yesterday? Hua Jin was still immersed in his messy thoughts. Hearing Liang Yin's question, she asked impatiently, it doesn't matter whether it happened or not. Don't you know? How would I know what happened last night? I don't have any experience. Is your first time still there? Hua Jin suddenly asked. Even though Liang Yin and Hua Jin were no longer in a normal relationship, she still felt a little uncomfortable being questioned like this. She blushed and said, I haven't had a boyfriend yet. What do you think? You haven't had a boyfriend yet? Because my ideal type is Tang Yu. And now? Hua Jin teased, is he still your ideal type? No. A look of disgust appeared on Liang Yin's face. I must have been blind to fall in love with such an idol. If a girl doesn't have it for the first time, it will be very painful. How did you know? Hua Jin looked at her as if she was an idiot. Liang Yin blushed and didn't ask any more. But she vaguely remembered that Qin Zhou had asked her a question. Did I hurt you last night? This sentence had a deep meaning behind it. Liang Yin was still a little doubtful. Are you sure nothing happened last night? I'm sure. Hua Jin said seriously, come on, I'm a man of principles. Do you think I'll play pranks on other people's bodies? You only wore a bathrobe and nothing underneath to sleep on the same bed with Qin Zhou. That's quite unprincipled, Hua Jin retorted. Who told you to provoke me first? Chapter 39:41. Hua Jin said angrily, at the end of the day, you shouldn't have used my body to provoke the Gong Jie. Did you ask for my opinion when you did that? Since you didn't ask for my opinion when you played a prank, why couldn't I? Just because you're a girl, does that give you special privileges? People should learn to put themselves in other people's shoes, what should be done and what shouldn't be done. Since you said that two people should be responsible for each other, then did you do it? Liang Yin was speechless. Initially, she hadn't taken this matter to heart. However, after Hua Jin's reminder, she suddenly realized that she had indeed gone overboard with what she had done. I'm sorry, Liang Yin immediately apologized. I didn't think that you would mind so much. Anyone would mind. Hua Jin continued, yesterday, nothing happened between Qin Zhou and me, I only tried to sound him out. But he's so smart that he immediately guessed that I was trying to sound him out for you. Don't worry, even if the two of us slept on the same bed, nothing substantial happened, so it wouldn't be a big deal. But you said that you actually stole a kiss from the Gong Jie? You said that I went overboard, but I haven't said that you did. As Hua Jin said this, he sat down on the sofa, picked up the script on the table and started to read it seriously. Liang Yin didn't dare to disturb him, but she kept thinking about how to apologize to him and beg for his forgiveness. Hence, she stayed in the room and refused to leave. Hua Jin didn't bother her and let her stay on the sofa. He hadn't memorized the script before, but since he had switched back, he had to memorize the script properly since they were going to shoot tomorrow. Unknowingly, it was already noon. Hua Jin finished memorizing a few pages of lines. When he lifted his head to stretch his body, he realized that Liang Yin was curled up on the sofa and had already fallen asleep. He walked over and gave her a gentle nudge. Liang Yin woke up instantly and sat up. She saw Hua Jin standing in front of her with no expression on his face. Did you not sleep well last night? When Liang Yin heard this, she shook her head and said, No, I don't know. I just felt very sleepy, maybe there was nothing to do. Suddenly, she didn't need to memorize the script. Instead, she didn't feel relaxed and only bored. When Hua Jin heard this, he smiled and said, Let's go out for lunch. After lunch, we'll rehearse. Oh, Liang Yin's question, you're not angry anymore? Yes. I'm very. Hua Jin then added, but men shouldn't stoop to a woman's level. She SSSSS, she's I less TSSSS, SSSS. And we'll sour? Since she had already said so, Hua Jin did not say anything else and changed the topic. What do you want to eat? I of, S of. Okay. Oh, right. At the mention of pizza, Liang Yin suddenly smiled mischievously and said, Boss, I'm working for you. You haven't paid me yet. Oh. Hua Jin took out his cell phone and asked, Do you still remember your bank account number? Yeah, I remember. Why? Give it to me. Are you going to pay me? Chapter 39:42. Hua Jin said generously, I'll transfer the money directly to your account. Okay. Liang Yin gave him her bank account number. Hua Jin held his cell phone. After a while, Liang Yin's cell phone beeped with a notification that the money had been transferred to her account. Liang Yin picked up her cell phone and glanced at it. It was a notification from her account that she had received $1 million. She was so shocked that her eyes widened. 1 million. Yeah. So much? Liang Yin had never seen so much money before and was dumbfounded. $1 million. She had only acted in a few scenes for him to earn so much money. Liang Yin felt that this money was like a pie that had fallen from the sky. You acted in 2 episodes for me. I told you before that we'll split the pay in half. $1 million for 2 episodes. As Hua Jin said this, his lips curled into a smile. Moreover, you acted very well. You deserve this pay. Liang Yin hugged her cell phone in surprise, her face full of happiness. Seeing her expression, Hua Jin couldn't help but laugh. Do you feel like you've suddenly become a nouveau riche? Haha. Did you know? Some people in my hometown demolished a few hundred square meters of private property. Guess how much it cost to demolish it? How much? $800,000. Hua Jin expressed his surprise. What kind of remote place is your hometown? Why is it only $800,000? Anyway, it's not far from the capital. But it's been developed into a highway. After all, to Liang Yin, getting $1 million after acting in such a small role was undoubtedly the same as winning the lottery. As Liang Yin said this, she stood up and patted Hua Jin's shoulder generously. Let's go, I'll treat you to pizza today. Yo, Boss Liang is so generous. There was a Western restaurant in the film studio complex. It was very secretive. Basically, it was a private room. Most paparazzi wouldn't be able to sneak in. Hence, most celebrities like to dine at this Western restaurant. On the way, they bumped into some celebrities. When they saw Hua Jin, they greeted him respectfully. Although Hua Jin wasn't considered a veteran actor in the entertainment industry, his acting skills were one of the best among the new generation of male idols. The producers and directors in the industry thought highly of him and he had many roles. At the entrance of the Western restaurant, they bumped into the assistant director of Heavy Snow. Usually, in a film crew, most of the assistant directors were in charge of casting. Upon seeing Hua Jin, the assistant director grumbled to him. Something happened in the production crew recently. What happened? Hua Jin could not help but express his concern when he saw the assistant director's frown. Didn't you know? Li Jin was kicked out. It flew. Hua Jin was a little surprised. Oh, speaking of which, who is Li Jing? Oh, the director knew that Hua Jin usually did not get close to other actresses, so he mentioned, she's the one who played Gu Hunyao. Auntie. Auntie? In the production crew, although Li Jin looked younger, she was still old. Hence, everyone in the crew called her Auntie. Why was she kicked out? Chapter 39-43. The assistant director's face was full of worry as he said, Look, we've been choosing and choosing, but we haven't picked anyone. Liang Yin stood at the side, bored to death. She was sizing up the people coming and going. On average, 1 out of 5 people was a big star. She watched them with great interest. Usually, she wouldn't have such an opportunity to be in close contact with these big stars. She would only catch a few glances on TV. At the film studio, any one of them would be a star. Liang Yin was already used to it. It wasn't like her first day on set, when she was surrounded by big stars and felt a little uneasy. Now, she had a normal attitude toward stars. She felt that these stars were good at acting and were pretty, but they were actually no different from ordinary people. Especially after spending so much time with Hua Jin, she felt that stars were also ordinary people. It was just entertainment that gave them the halo of idols. Hua Jin chatted with the assistant director for a while, then he turned around and called out to Liang Yin, Liang Yin. Go in. Liang Yin turned around, nodded, and walked towards Hua Jin. Seeing Liang Yin beside Hua Jin, the assistant director's eyes lit up. Hua Jin, who is this? Oh, Hua Jin introduced her, my assistant. Are all your assistants so pretty? I don't remember you being this assistant before. Are you talking about Xiaoqi? Hua Jin got angry at the mention of Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi was currently doing advanced training at the company's headquarters. When she came back, he would find a chance to get rid of her. He was a very vengeful person. Especially after seeing Xiaoqi's ugly face, he was secretly certain that when he had the chance, he would get rid of her. The assistant director, on the other hand, was sizing up Liang Yin seriously. His gaze was full of admiration, and he praised her from time to time. Your assistant looks quite like a star. What's her name? Liang Yin smiled and introduced herself naturally, Liang Yin. Liang Yin. That's a good name. As the assistant director spoke, he smiled and asked Liang Yin, do you want to come for the audition? Now, there's an empty role in the production team, and we're worried that we can't find a suitable candidate. Liang Yin was a little surprised. She did not expect to be invited to an audition. When Hua Jin heard this, he was also a little surprised. However, he had originally thought that since there was an opportunity, he might as well let Liang Yin have a try. After all, her image was not bad and her acting skills were also very good. He belonged to the gifted type. He originally wanted to wait until dinner to ask for Liang Yin's opinion. But, he did not expect that the assistant director would choose Liang Yin at first glance and invite her. Hua Jin also felt that Liang Yin could give it a try. Are you willing? As she was Hua Jin's assistant, the assistant director's attitude was more polite. Liang Yin glanced at Hua Jin, as if asking for his opinion. Hua Jin immediately said, if you're willing, you can give it a try. Okay. Liang Yin smiled and said, it's my honor. That's good. The assistant director nodded and said, tomorrow afternoon, you will follow Hua Jin to the set and recite a few lines. If Director Gu sees it and says it's okay, then you'll pass. As the role of the female lead was not very important, the basic knowledge of lines and acting skills were not particularly demanding. It mainly depended on one's state and looks. Chapter 39-44. The assistant director still had something to do. He said goodbye to Hua Jin and left in a hurry. Liang Yin watched as the assistant director left. She turned around and glanced at Hua Jin. She was obviously a little conflicted. Audition. I didn't expect to receive an audition invitation. Hua Jin smiled and pushed the door open. As he walked towards the private room, he said, do you like acting? I didn't like it before, but after interacting with it, I find it interesting. When Hua Jin heard this, his lips curled into a smile. Filming isn't that easy. In your eyes, you might think that acting is just about having a lot of money, a lot of fans, limitless glory, and everyone knows your name. But in reality, acting is not that simple. You might be slandered, spread rumors, or even be subjected to online violence. When people scold you, you can't talk back. Why? Because you're a public figure. Hua Jin said, even if you use a fake account to scold people, you'll still suffer a lot if the netizens find out. That's scary. But if you have a strong background, no one will dare to touch you. I don't have a strong background. Liang Yin was a little scared. After all, she didn't particularly like acting. She was interested in acting because the pay was high and sometimes she felt that acting was quite fun. But if it was really as scary as Hua Jin said, she was a little scared. But you can sign a contract with Qin Zhou. Hua Jin smiled mischievously. If you become his artist, won't you have a lot of opportunities to interact with him? Agent? An agent is the agent of an artist's career. A good agent has a lot of resources and can help you with everything outside of work. Liang Yin was a little moved when she heard this. She admired Qin Zhou. She felt that Qin Zhou had a very mature temperament. It was a charm that men of Tang Yu and Hua Jin's age didn't have. Many girls liked men who were older than them. Mature, steady, reliable, and gave them a sense of security. She wasn't a shy person. If she liked someone, she would say it directly. Is he willing to sign me? Hua Jin said, I'll help you find out later. All right. Liang Yin said with a smile, after it's done, I'll treat you to something delicious. Humph, who cares? Also, keep your distance from me. If you cause another soul misalignment, I'll definitely jump off a building. When Liang Yin heard this, she also kept a distance from him with lingering fear. Especially when they passed by the fountain in the courtyard, the two of them were especially vigilant. As the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. After lunch, the two of them went back home. Liang Yin accompanied Hua Jin to go through the script. Hua Jin also gave her the lines for Ubuteri. Liang Yin took it back and memorized it seriously. The next day, Hua Jin brought Liang Yin to the set. He acted, while Liang Yin was brought to the audition by the assistant director. When Hua Jin finished filming, he saw that Liang Yin was already sitting in the waiting area. However, her expression was a little strange. It was indescribably strange. He walked over and asked her, how was the audition? It was okay. Okay? This word seemed a little ambiguous. Liang Yin's expression was obviously not right. Chapter 39:45. Director Gu is quite satisfied with me, but the assistant director said that I did well in the audition. However, there is another person who wants the role. If I want to act, I have to go through a second round of auditions. A second round of auditions? When Hua Jin heard this, he didn't think much of it. Usually, there is only one round of auditions. Why would there be a second round? Is the assistant director trying to take advantage of you? Take advantage of me? Hua Jin nodded and said, yes. After all, the roles in this production are all highly sought after. Basically, once you act in it, you will be famous. There are many small-time actresses who want to act in it, but Director Gu has always looked down on them. The assistant director has been racking his brains over this matter. I think he wants to use this opportunity to get some benefits from you. Money? Yes. I also thought that he wanted to use this as an excuse to ask me for packaging fees, so I asked him indirectly. He said that I don't need to pay for packaging fees. Hua Jin felt that it was even more strange. So when is the second round of auditions? Liang Yin answered honestly, tonight. Tonight? Yes, I'll go to his room. He said that he wants me to act one more time so that he can think about it carefully. As Liang Yin said this, her expression became even more strange. But won't it be too suspicious if I go to his room tonight? He won't want to sleep with me, will he? When Hua Jin heard this, his face darkened. He wants you to go to his room? Tonight? Yes. Do you even need to ask? When Hua Jin heard this, he was also very angry. He sat beside her and said, you're not allowed to go. He obviously wants to sleep with you. When you go into his room, you won't be able to tell how many people are in the room and whether you can walk out of it. This assistant director also had a criminal record. Rather than a criminal record, it was more like one was willing to be hit and the other was willing to be hit. As the assistant director, he was in charge of the casting process. Other than the roles that the sponsors and the director had assigned, the other roles depended on what he said. Naturally, there would be people who wanted to climb up the ladder. In fact, there were many of them. However, this assistant director was known for his ugly table manners in the industry. He was quite ruthless when it came to playing with women, especially when he used the excuse of discussing the script to invite two popular actresses to talk about the script. It would have been fine if it was just the unspoken rules, but he had already instructed the paparazzi to release the news in advance and take pictures of the two actresses following him into the hotel. Then, he held on to these photos and waited for the drama to finish filming and enter the promotional period. Then, he casually released these photos, but it was still considered a sensation for a while. In reality, no one cared about these two young actresses. All they cared about was the dark side of the entertainment industry that no one knew about. Because of this, the show became popular and was bought over by a media website at a high price. The viewership ratings also broke records. However, the reputations of these two young actresses had been completely ruined. They had been used as stepping stones, and there was no place for them to cry. Later on, she had plastic surgery, changed her name, and took on a few dramas, but they were all lukewarm. As for this assistant director, because of the unbreakable publicity, he was still doing well. The entertainment industry was like this. It was an abyss of suffering. It was easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to defend against a stab in the dark. In order to rise and fall in the industry, it depended on who was ruthless enough. Usually, those who stood at the top were those who could go all out. Chapter 3946. Liang Yin still had a lingering fear when she heard this. Luckily, she had reported this matter to Hua Jin in advance because she also felt that it was quite suspicious. That was why she had her suspicions and told Hua Jin about it. She didn't expect that there would be so much involved. Then I won't go. Liang Yin knew that this opportunity was very precious. If she didn't go, she might even offend the assistant director. However, she really didn't want to come into contact with such things. If this was the price to pay for being famous, she was willing to give it up. Sigh. Liang Yin had underestimated her own experience. Hua Jin saw her disappointed look and comforted her. It's okay. It's not like this role is the only thing you want. Later, I'll ask Qin Zhou to see if there are any vacancies in the cast. No need. Liang Yin smiled and said, actually, I think being an assistant is pretty good. I can help you with the scenes and also be a bystander. In this industry, there were often some shocking things that could be gossiped about. Although it was quite world-shattering, Liang Yin was used to it. She enjoyed the gossip. Hua Jin didn't take it to heart. After all, Liang Yin didn't seem to take it to heart either. At night, Hua Jin was reading the script when his cell phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and realized that it was the assistant director. There were two assistant directors in the cast. One was in name and the other was in charge of casting and high-level affairs. His name was Meng Hao. Hua Jin didn't give him a contact number, but there was a group account in the cast. Looking at this account, Hua Jin recognized that it was Meng Hao. Usually, Meng Hao wouldn't call him unless it was something important. He guessed that this must have something to do with Liang Yin. When he picked up the phone, the other party asked directly, Hua Jin, what's wrong with your assistant? Didn't you say that there's an audition tonight? Why don't I see her? Also, I can't get through to her cell phone. Director Mong, I've heard about what happened today. I was the one who told Liang Yin not to go. Liang Yin is innocent. You can fool her, but can you fool me? Do you think I don't know what you're planning? In this industry, if you want to be in a film, you have to go all out. But, Liang Yin is my assistant. Even if you want to give me face, you shouldn't do this. That's fine, but you actually came to me to ask for him? There was a deathly silence on the other side. After a long time, Meng Hao smiled. He naturally expected that Liang Yin must have told Hua Jin about this matter, so he didn't avoid it. After all, she was just an assistant. She expected that Hua Jin would at most turn a blind eye to it and not care about it. Meng Hao had taken a liking to Liang Yin. With Liang Yin's looks, it was definitely rare to see someone like her in the entertainment industry. Many celebrities in the entertainment industry had their looks altered, but they often looked like the product of an abortion line. This included the newcomers, who had undergone plastic surgery to look like popular actresses. Yin Shishir, who had been popular for a while, had such a pure and innocent face. She was already a little tired of looking at all these faces. There weren't many natural beauties like Liang Yin. She was definitely a treasure. The more Meng Hao looked at her, the more he liked her. Aya, this is an inevitable process. You should know. Who doesn't come here at this time? If you can't even accept this, how can you stay in the entertainment industry? Chapter 3947. When he said this, Meng Hao was immediately displeased. Even his tone became lukewarm. Hua Jin, you're not ordinary now. You're famous. Don't forget how you got to where you are in the past. You're looking down on the unspoken rules. Don't you think that your unbearable past is a stain that you can never erase? Do you think that the past doesn't matter now that you're famous? Ha! Hua Jin is just an assistant. Do you have to be so protective of her? When Hua Jin heard this, his face turned pale. Then, he retorted, Director Meng, let's talk about the facts. If you want to use the unspoken rules on my assistant, then let's talk about it openly. I can't say anything if a man and a woman are willing. But don't you think that's too disgusting to deceive her? Perhaps it was this word that enraged Meng Hao. My mother doesn't even think that you're disgusting. Who knows what kind of person your assistant is? She pretends not to know. But since she wants to be in this industry, don't she know how complicated it is? Why are you pretending to be innocent? Don't act anymore. Get out of here. When Hua Jin heard this, he was completely enraged. If it weren't for people like you who break the rules of the industry, would actors like to be used by the unspoken rules? When one entered this industry, there were too many things that were beyond one's control. There were different levels of actors and actresses, and gradually, there was a foul atmosphere. It was these directors and capitalists who condoned this atmosphere that made many people willing to use the unspoken rules to get to where they were. As for those who truly had strength and principles, they were buried. Don't make it sound so nice. Aren't people like you just chasing after fame and fortune? Isn't that what you want? You're still pretending to be obedient after getting benefits? What a pompous statement. Alright, that's enough. Meng Hao interrupted him impatiently. People like you are at the bottom of this industry. People like you deserve to please us. No matter how glorious you are, you'll be under us for the rest of your life. With that, the phone was hung up harshly. Hua Jin stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, holding his phone. He was so angry that he was trembling. Damn it. People like you, no matter how glorious you are, will be suppressed by us for the rest of your lives. These words were like a stab to his heart. Hua Jin clenched his fists. The old scars in his heart were ruthlessly torn open. Even the scabs and skin were badly mangled. Hua Jin, Liang Yin's weak voice suddenly came from behind. Hua Jin didn't dare to turn around and let her see him in such a sorry state. Liang Yin was just about to return the script when she heard Hua Jin arguing with someone through the door. Worried, she swiped the room card and heard Hua Jin and Meng Hao arguing. She felt especially upset when she heard that. She didn't know why, but when she looked at Hua Jin's lonely back, she actually felt an incomparable heartache. She walked over gently and held his shoulder carefully. Hua Jin, are you okay? Hua Jin shook his head and said, I'm fine. Liang Yin looked at him quietly, feeling a little upset. She remembered how Qin Zhou looked a little distressed when he talked about Hua Jin during breakfast in the morning. Actually, I don't manage artists anymore, but Hua Jin is the only one I've made an exception for. Chapter 39-48. She didn't like Hua Jin in the past because there were rumors that Hua Jin acted like a big shot and bullied newcomers and actors in the same crew. That was just his defiance. Defiance against the rules of the entertainment industry. Defiance against those who were suppressing him. Unlike many other artists, he was forced to enter the entertainment industry. Even though he floated in the big dye vat that was the entertainment industry, he still managed to maintain the innocence of a child. Liang Yin knew about his past. No wonder he reacted so violently when he found out that the director had asked her to talk about the script at night. Liang Yin, I regret it. As Hua Jin spoke, he turned around with a sullen expression. You'd better never step into this industry. You can't afford to lose. He was the victim, so why did he have to drag Liang Yin into this? There was too much darkness and unfairness in this industry to begin with. Liang Yin shouldn't have stepped into this industry. Liang Yin paused for a moment and smiled. I used to think that you were a perverse and rebellious idle boy. Actually, Hua Jin, haven't you realized that you're a very gentle person? When Hua Jin heard this, he didn't understand why she said that. Gentle? Although you always say mean things, you've always been taking care of others. Thank you for thinking so much for me. Hua Jin and Liang Yin looked at each other and smiled. Liang Yin giggled and said, moreover, if I really enter the industry, Many actresses won't be able to make a living. Hua Jin couldn't help but retort, what do you mean by that? Look, someone with good acting skills and good looks like me gets paid so cheaply. Isn't it obvious that I'm stealing their jobs? When Hua Jin heard this, he couldn't help but laugh. Pfft. That's right. Liang Yin couldn't help but reach out her hand and rub his face as if she was coaxing a child. Aya, why are you so cute when you laugh? Hua Jin was angry and amused at the same time.